Part 43. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 422. The other boss, 6 evil generals shadow of the evil god, has armor spikes all over its body that stand upright, and its feet shoot out fireworks, like a jet fighter, moving flexibly in mid-air and flying with a whoosh. The 2 red eyes looked like 2 red lanterns in the dark night, which was very scary. At this moment, no one had time to complain about this boss with a sudden change in style, because the shadow of the evil god, together with Illidan, rushed towards everyone 1 step faster than the monster army. But Ningyu had already expected that walls made of concrete, nearly 20 meters high, were erected in front of several people. Boom! Illidan glanced at several people in mid-air, but suddenly killed the innocent Xiao Chuer. Li Erpang suddenly realized. He said loudly, "So this is a team battle where you kill the cow first." The concrete wall tilted suddenly in mid-air. Ningyu asked, "Milk?" Xiao Chuer. Illidan moved flexibly, flapped his wings, made several turns in mid-air, and bypassed the earth wall. Illidan, who was originally going to kill Xiao Chuer, flicked his bat wings in mid-air, and with many after-images, he bypassed Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi, and instead swooped towards Yilin, who was standing there more innocently than Xiao Chuer. Down. The stupid boss actually came to do this. Li Erpang was angry. Ningyu, who was using his skills, couldn't listen anymore. Against the whistling wind, he corrected loudly, "It's a sound coming from the east and hitting the west." Yilin's heart skipped a beat when she saw Illidan rushing toward her. Because he has been in the game world for so long, he almost forgot that his charm value is too low. If he doesn't use Shadow Follower, the boss will give priority to him every minute and want to kill him first. After being stunned for a moment, Yilin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This boss doesn't respect martial ethics. He won't kill a good tank, but he insists on chasing a fragile assassin. It's simply heartless. It can also be seen from this that in the ruined civilization under the clouds, Illidan and the shadow of the evil god no longer need to follow the rules of the Uranos game world and become a real monster. Oops, in the real world, my skills consume too much and are not suitable for protracted battles and group battles. Alas, it would be great if there was still a medicine that could restore full spiritual power. Yilin's heart moved. In the rapidly changing battle situation, her brain was spinning rapidly. At the same time, her mind was also exploring the storage space, looking for a way to break the situation. Everything happened in a flash of lightning. After a moment, Yilin made a decision in her heart. Yilin flipped his palm, and a delicate silver revolver appeared in his right hand. That's the engineer's staff he carefully crafted in the game world, the Death Revolver. Multiple projections. Freeze. Heating technique. Bang 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 bang. Yilin smiled slightly, and at the same time as he retreated violently, a magazine suddenly emptied. The light of different spells in the gun barrel shone at the same time. 4 of the bullets spiraled out of the air and exploded into crystal dust, while the other 2 bullets hit Illidan in the air. "You are seeking death." A disdainful smile appeared on Illidan's face, while speaking in a thick translation accent. The 2 war blades struck the 2 slowly bullets in almost no particular order. Ding! Ding! The 2 crystal bullets, which were spinning the magic flow, suddenly exploded the moment they came into contact with the crescent-shaped swords in Illidan's hands. Illidan made a move. Boom! The dazzling light instantly blinded Illidan's eye patch. It exploded again. Hateful! When these 2 bullets came into contact with Illidan at the same time, they completed the airtightness of the circuit from another angle, forming an alternative conflict circuit and exploding directly on the spot. Although the damage of this explosion was not high, it was extremely insulting. Illidan became angry instantly, and all his hatred points fell on Yilin. After Li Erpang was ignored and bypassed by Illidan, He was also furious. He stood up and killed the boss with his long teeth and claws. But when he turned around, Li Erpang was stunned. What the hell? The boss actually showed up his health bar. Because the moment Yilin caused damage to Illidan, Anti-Hong's health gauge suddenly appeared above the head of 6 evil generals betrayer Illidan. This boss showed his health bar without any precaution or worry. All the apostles present, including Yilin, were slightly startled. They thought that in this hidden map, the rules of the Uranus game world no longer apply. But what they never expected was that when they started to deal damage to the boss would show his health bar so arrogantly. After being slightly startled, the 4 people and the dog all showed knowing smiles. He. Illidan didn't notice at all what he was about to encounter after showing the blood bar. After angrily saying the line asking for death, Illidan landed with a bang. The moment it landed, the ground seemed to be slapped hard by an excavator, rumbling and shaking. Centered on Illidan's impact point, a shallow pit with a diameter of nearly 10 meters was left, and the shallow pit was full of cracks. At the moment of landing, the terrible wind pressure instantly threw Li Erpang, who was gearing up, and the evil and arrogant dog, flying out. Illidan raised his head, and a blazing green flame ignited deep in the dark eye patch. Around him, the shadow of Yilin's multiple projection technique slowly walked towards Illidan with the same smile on his face. Exile. Useless. Yilin had already been hiding in the dark. Although there was no player panel, he still refused to give up and tried to use the skills that came with the professional bonus. Unfortunately, it's of no use. When the boss showed his health bar, Yilin speculated that there might be some remaining game rules that could take effect here. Unexpectedly, besides Illidan's health bar, they, who were once players, had lost everything in the game. The attributes, levels, and skills that you have worked hard to master through monsters. It's a pity, facing 2 bosses at the same time, if you can exile one and concentrate on beating the other, it will be very beneficial to the current battle situation. After using multiple projection technique to temporarily delay Illidan, Yilin quickly calculated the distribution of spiritual energy in her mind. Every spiritual apostle is a master of blue control. Every bit of spiritual energy must be used on the edge of the blade and must not be squandered casually. If the spiritual energy is wasted on the back of the sword or even on the handle, then this person is definitely not a qualified spiritual apostle. Not even worthy of being on the spiritual side. Night Dire. After fully weighing the pros and cons, Yilin waved his hand to summon his Mount Nightmare. Accompanied by a burst of square light, the Night Dire came across the border. When Night Dire came here again from a different space, he recalled the funny stories in the Uranus world. The whole car suddenly became bad, and a woo exhaust sound spewed out of the exhaust pipe. It sounded like crying. I am an aloof and elegant gentleman. Stop talking nonsense. Cybertron mode. Under Yilin's command, Night Dire's intelligence was extremely high. Within a second, he noticed that something was wrong with the surrounding situation. At the moment, I didn't dare to talk nonsense anymore. I started spinning, jumping, and sticking my butt out, and countless parts were disassembled and reassembled. Cybertronian motorcycle, Dire gentleman, join the battle. Not far away. After Illidan somehow bypassed the tank and turned to kill Yilin. The man in fine steel armor and the shadow of the evil god crashed into the concrete wall. Bang 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 bang. Ningyu worked it out with sweat all over his head. The 20-meter high and half-meter thick earth wall looked like tofu without sauce in front of the shadow of the evil god. A hole was knocked out at the first impact, and the wall broke through. Out. Those 4 concrete walls can only delay the boss's attack for a few seconds. Ningyu's expression suddenly changed, and he turned over his hand and took out another card from the storage space. Draw a card. Without a moment's hesitation, he directly crushed the cards and then patted himself. Click. After using an unknown prop, The evil god's shadow hit Ningyu's chest like a cannonball. In an instant, Ningyu's chest sunk deeply, and there was a crisp clicking sound of bones. A mouthful of blood foam mixed with some dark red debris suddenly spurted out of Ningyu's mouth. The moment Ningyu was struck, a loud explosion was heard from a ruined building 10 meters away from Ningyu. The ruins that were not affected in any way seemed to have been hit by an invisible hammer, making a deep hole and collapsing in the other direction. It's a life-saving tool. Xiao Chuer's pupils shrank sharply. She didn't expect that after losing the shackles of the turn system and Ningyu also losing the player panel, he would be so fragile. He was forced to use the life-saving props in one encounter. For each apostle, there are more or less strange damage-reducing or life-saving props on his body, which are generally not used lightly unless absolutely necessary. After all, these are all accumulated from previous trials, so use one piece less. Under normal circumstances, life-saving props are related to lives, and apostles will not transfer life-saving props to others casually. Fortunately, Ningyu reacted quickly. Even the damage-reducing props he used caused him to vomit blood. If he didn't use them, the consequences would be disastrous. In this hidden map, there is no medicine that can restore health in everyone's storage space. If you want to withstand the boss's attack, you have to rely on your ability and your face. Only half a minute has passed since the two bosses came to kill them in mid-air. In this half-minute, Li Erpang and Guzi were thrown aside by Illidan, Ningyu was knocked away by the shadow of the evil god and vomited blood, and Yilin summoned the Cybertronian gentleman. This melee has just begun, and it is already full of ups and downs, ever-changing, and full of crises. The attack power of these two monsters is too high, someone must hold them back. In the shadow state, Yilin silently restored her spiritual energy and loaded bullets into the Death Revolver. In Death Revolver, the power of the spell constructed is limited. Main interference, auxiliary output. To kill these two bosses, you have to use your real trump card. The little fat man has already used his ultimate move. He has more than enough strength but not enough flexibility. Without hiding his strength, Guzi's situation is probably similar to that of Li Erpang. Once I bubble up, Illidan will bite me and won't let go. Yilin had a headache when she thought of her poor charm. At the same time, following Illidan and the shadow of the evil god, meteors burning with green flames crashed to the ground, leaving deep pits one after another on the ground. After being consumed by the enchanting banshees with enchanting postures and the ferocious-looking gargoyles that filled the sky, many still persisted and came here. Although the number is far less terrifying than at the beginning, compared with 4 people and 1 dog, this number is enough to be called a strange sea tactic. The Burning Legion is coming one after another. Everything that should come has come. Ningyu was suddenly hit by a man in fine steel armor named Six Evil Generals, shadow of the evil god. His heart and lungs were hit, blood spurted out, and his life or death was uncertain. At the critical moment, Ningyu should have used some kind of prop that could transfer instantaneous damage to transfer the impact of the blow to the surrounding buildings, so the nearby ruins strangely collapsed. Apparently, he took part of the damage from this blow on behalf of Ningyu. Xiao Chuer glanced at Ningyu, gritted her teeth, but made no other move. In the trial, even if you are a friend, you must take care of yourself before you can take care of others. At just one glance, Xiao Chuer's expression was indifferent. From her tailbone, threads like spider webs were drilled out. The whole person looked like a spider queen spinning silk from her butt. Spider silk entanglement. At this moment, Xiao Chuer could no longer hide her strength and directly revealed her true ability. Strands of transparent spider threads wrapped around the shadow of the evil god that had just knocked Ningyu away in mid-air. The spider silk is flexible and ever-changing, and it instantly wraps the shadow of the evil god into a cocoon. Ningyu was blasted into the ruins. Li Erpang and Guzi were temporarily blown away by Illidan. At this moment, Xiao Chuer faced a cruel situation where he had to fight one of the boss. Wait, Why is that guy missing again? Xiao Chuer's whole body has curled up flexibly in mid-air, and with the help of the pull of the spider silk, her delicate body flew towards the shadow of the evil god. But in mid-air, Xiao Chuer was suddenly startled. Only then did she realize that at some point, the guy dropped a bunch of afterimages and stopped making any moves. Too insidious. Since learning that Yilin's identity is actually an apostle, Xiao Chuer's impression of Yilin has greatly changed, from the protagonist written by luck to the cunning and cunning apostle. During this time, she unexpectedly, Yilin became completely obsessed again in some way. He is really stubborn. How can you do this? But at this moment, the shadow of the evil god hit Phoenix right back, and the red eyes suddenly turned to Xiao Chuer. Xiao Chuer had no choice but to take action, and had no other choice but to take action. Thorn rose. Xiao Chuer stepped forward. After activating the skill, Xiao Chuer's body was exposed with sharp thorns. The whole person looked like a tempting sea urchin. Those countless spikes penetrated the spider silk in an instant, and pierced the thick armor plate of the shadow of the evil god, piercing dazzling sparks. So hard. She activates her skills one after another. Normally, anyone, any flesh and blood, would be cut into pieces by her. Xiao Chuer has tried this combo every time without success, and she doesn't know how many men have died under her skirt. But unfortunately, the opponent is a high defense monster that Xiao Chuer is least good at dealing with. Her ability does not break defenses. It can't be pierced. Diddy-diddy-die. The head of the shadow of the evil god suddenly made a series of sounds that seemed to be calling people to get in the car. Suddenly, two dazzling red lights passed through Xiao Chuer's abdomen. Laugh. Xiao Chuer's face was shocked. Where the red light penetrated, not a drop of blood flowed out. To be precise, it should be that the moment the blood was about to flow out, it was instantly evaporated by the terrible high temperature, leaving two holes as wide as a bowl in Xiao Chuer's abdomen, which penetrated directly from the abdomen to the back. White smoke was rising from the edge of the wound, and there was even a smell of barbecue. The sudden severe pain spread from the abdomen to the whole body in an instant. Before Xiao Chuer had time to react, the evil god's shadow's hands were like iron hoops, mixed with the sound of gears grinding, and he suddenly grabbed Xiao Chuer's arms. The shoulders were pulled hard to both sides, as if they were going to tear Xiao Chuer in half. Giggle. As the shadow of the evil god became harder and harder, Xiao Chuer felt that she was about to be split in half from the middle, and it was so painful that it was difficult to breathe. At this moment, Xiao Chuer deeply regretted it. Nothing to do. Wouldn't it be better to follow Yuren's example and hide? In an instant, Xiao Chuer was devastated. She never thought that the life of Xiao Chuer, who was waiting for her to be released, would be ended in such a miserable way. Let that lady go. Right now. Rumble. The engine is roaring. The condensate is roaring. Behind Xiao Chuer, the turbocharged roar was like thunder. At this moment, it was like a mechanical beast walking on the earth, killing with boundless rage. A giant black steel fist hit the shadow of the evil god on the head from behind Xiao Chuer. Dang! The collision of metal and metal caused fierce sparks to fly, and the terrifying power instantly blackened the eyeball bulb of the shadow of the evil god, and the light dimmed. Bang bang! A mecha with a ferocious and domineering appearance pushed the shadow of the evil god out without fear of death. The moment the shadow of the evil god was severely injured, the arms tightly holding Xiao Chuer's shoulders were involuntarily loosened. The steel body of shadow of the evil god was slammed to the ground under the sudden impact. Boom! Xiao Chuer, who was severely injured, fell to the ground, and her health was almost at the bottom. But at the moment, she couldn't care less about the severe pain of being almost split in half. She just stared blankly at the spectacle of two mechas not far away fighting together like gangsters. The mecha at the back, which rescued Xiao Chuer like a god coming down from the earth, kept spouting rude words from an unknown source. How dare you leave scars on a beautiful lady? Damn it! Making a lady cry is the greatest original sin. He who can make a lady smile is a true gentleman. You don't deserve to be a human being. I heard the voice of a lady crying. A male who can't wipe away a woman's tears is not worthy of being a male at all. It's my gentleman's lateness that has caused this beautiful lady to suffer such pain. It's my fault. The surface of Knight Dyer's armor was engraved with mysterious and obscure lines, glowing with brilliance. Nightmare felt like she was possessed by the god of Cybertron at this moment, or like the small universe of the source of fire exploded, transforming into a lonely gentleman, carefully punishing this scumbag who had hurt the lady. Use one sentence to describe the scene of two mechas fighting. Intrigued, oil splashing, starting up, organic in the middle, vitality in the machine. Although Xiao Chuer felt that what the new mecha said was a bit strange. But, the boss's health bar is dropping rapidly. The attack worked. Maybe only mechas can dismantle mechas with bare hands. That's Yi Lin's pet too. At this time, Ningyu clutched his chest in pain, with blood bleeding from the corner of his mouth, and quickly walked out of the ruins. That guy hides too deeply. I never expected that a spiritual figure of the summoning style would actually choose the assassin profession in the game world. Ningyu said as he came to Xiao Chuer and helped Xiao Chuer up. The two looked at each other and recalled Yi Lin's various performances in the game world. They couldn't help but take a breath and said at the same time, it's so insidious. The dog is his pet. This powerful mecha is also his pet. He turned out to be a summoning stream. The strength is so terrifying. In this case, it is not surprising that this deity is living in seclusion. After all, Yi Lin has already contributed a car and a dog as combat power. Looking at the monsters coming from the sky, Ningyu focused his eyes. Right now, Yi Lin's pet is dealing with the shadow of the evil god. All we can do now is to clear out the mobs. Yes. After the shock, a smile appeared on Xiao Chuer's pale face. She stared deeply at the car that had already been scuffling in the distance, fighting for her with the shadow of the evil god. She put her finger on her lips and clicked. A red heart appears on the fingertips. My abilities are ineffective against mechanical monsters, but I can deal with these little monsters, haha. In a deep pit, Illidan roared angrily, and in the blink of an eye, the multiple projection technique created by Yi Lin was wiped out completely as the warblade danced. At the critical moment of life and death, Li Erpang did not dare to hold back his hands. His palms glowed with golden light and he took action directly with the ancient martial arts passed down from his family. There was faint Sanskrit sound coming out of Li Erpang's body, and he was like a boar in heat, and he swatted at Illidan with a ferocious expression. As long as the boss has a health bar, it can be killed. The dog's nose twitched slightly, because the scene was too chaotic and the messy smell was too complicated. After searching for Yi Lin's location to no avail, Wang Tiandi could only fly into the air with his tail swung, hiding behind Li Erpang, and pushed out flatly with both palms. He blasted waves of shocks at Illidan as if he didn't need any money. Woof woof woof, woof. Bang 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 bang. Guz's shockwave and Li Erpang's iron palm kept hitting Illidan's body. Illidan was originally powerful and could be called the #1 thug under the evil god in the world of Auranos. But after arriving at the ruins of civilization, Illidan's strength was inexplicably slashed. In addition, after Li Er's fat body doubled, his movements were extremely flexible. While avoiding Illidan's warblade, he used both palms to greet Illidan's vitals, which was extremely insignificant. What kind of monkey steals peaches, fishes for the moon from the bottom of the sea? Two dragons go out to sea, kills them in 1,000 years, smashes the eggs in their palms. Li Erpang seems to be a limitless fighting master at this moment, using all possible means. With the cooperation of the shockwave of the dog, he beats Illidan. The health value plummeted. But Illidan is not a mediocre player. Although he was aggrieved by Li Erpang and Guze's human and dog integration, he completely lost his temper. But his two huge crescent-shaped war blades were extremely sharp and stained with strange green flames. After a round of confrontation, Li Erpang also had many wounds on his body. The most serious ones were on the chest and left shoulder. A wound was cut from the xiphoid process to the left lower abdomen. Even the ribs and intestines were vaguely visible, and blood was gushing out. The other part was the left shoulder. Illidan chopped the little fat man's left collarbone with a knife, almost splitting Li Erpang into two halves, causing Li Erpang's entire left arm to droop, unable to exert any strength at all. The green flames burning on the war blade even burned half of Li Erpang's body black, making him extremely miserable. It had been a long time since Li Erpang had tried to withstand such a fierce attack, and Guze, who had consumed a lot of spiritual energy, was panting at this moment and could no longer fly. When the two claws were pushed out, only a fart-like breath came out, completely without lethality. In just a few minutes, one man and one dog unleashed a terrifying DPS, knocking the health of 6 evil generals, Betrayer and Illidan to about 30%. But just when Illidan's life dropped to 30%, Illidan suddenly raised his head in frustration and shouted, "You bastards, see the devil inside me with your own eyes. You've wasted too much of my time, mortals, now you can go die." In the blink of an eye, Illidan transformed, grew several times taller, and transformed into a demon covered in black flames. After the transformation, the name above Illidan's head also changed. 6 evil generals Betrayer Illidan, demon form. After the transformation, Illidan's health bar began to recover rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Boss, has regained his health. Li Erpang was stunned, damn it. This boss actually has a second stage. Wang Tiandi, whose face was full of exhaustion, turned his head and barked hard at an imperceptible shadow on the side. Woof. About there. In the shadow, there was a card, and the shattered light split into two parts and flew towards Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi respectively. An irresistible suction force suddenly sucked Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi together. Li Erpang. Guze. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 423. Let the time go back 10 seconds. Li Erpang suffered an unprecedented blow. His fat-burning skills were at the end of their rope. Without the strength bonus of fat, his strength attribute has not yet broken through the first level of strength lock, and he cannot cause much damage to Illidan. Guze was assisting in the attack. Erpang classmate saw that the boss's health was about to drop below 30%, and victory was in sight. But the boss actually transformed. Transformed into something taller, stronger, and faster. This is nothing, the most outrageous thing is that after the boss transformed, the health bar that dropped to 30% began to recover. High attack, high defense, high agility, the ability to fly, a burning aura, and blood regeneration. Who the hell designed such a shameless boss? In addition to being unable to conceive and give birth to a child on the spot, what else can't this boss do? Li Erpang cried out in his heart. He almost had the urge to give up, so he simply positioned himself in big letters so that the boss could do whatever he wanted and enjoy the pleasure of you and me. If you don't do something, I'm going to be in trouble. I swear, I will never team up with you again in this life. If I team up with you again, I will be a dog. I am a dog. No, I will never team up with you again in my next life. Li Erpang roared and summoned up the little strength he had left to see if he could drain the last of the boss's health bar. In these 10 seconds, Li Erpang's inner struggle was extremely complicated, like a vigorous and tragic poem. But suddenly, Li Erpang just spat and was about to attack when a white light suddenly flew towards him. His first reaction was, a hidden weapon. This boss doesn't care about martial ethics. You've become so perverted and you're still throwing away hidden weapons? Do you still want the boss's face? But in an instant, Li Erpang squinted his eyes in mid-air and looked at it for a moment. It doesn't seem to be a hidden weapon. He was familiar with this light. It is the light that appears when the item card is crushed and is about to be activated. Ah, this. The light split into two. They were submerged into the bodies of Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi respectively. Wang Tiandi was alone with the dog, panting heavily and almost dying. This time, the dog dared to slap its chest and roar loudly. It was definitely not paddling, and it was working harder than ever. It's because the boss is too resistant to grass. When the light from the prop card appeared out of nowhere and integrated into Yi Pang Yigo's body, a strange reminder suddenly appeared in front of Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi. You are about to merge with Wang Tiandi. You are about to merge with Li Erpang. Please be mentally prepared. Damn it! Fusion. How come I didn't know this happened? Wait a minute. Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi, one fat and one dog, showed confusion and shock at the same time when they saw the warm reminder from the tower. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Ah. 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 Woof. Dark place. Yilin sighed, feeling a little regretful in her heart. Another trump card prop was just used up. But now we need to give full play to the combat effectiveness of our teammates. For the sake of safety, this is the option with the least loss. Fusion. Fat dog. The fusion must be successful card. Grade rare. Effect click to view details. Instructions click to view details. Under the influence of the mysterious power of fusion must success card, Li Erpang and Goza looked serious and flew to the side, several meters apart, standing on the same level. Gozi and Wang Tiandi shouted loudly at the same time. Integration. Woof woo. When the word fusion was spoken in unison, a mysterious and incomprehensible understanding appeared in the minds of one person and one dog, as if they were enlightened. A mysterious and terrifying fusion technology was directly instilled into the minds of Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi with the power of props. At this moment, they seemed to be possessed by Gokong and the Arrogantian Prince. At this moment, their fusion skills seemed to have been tempered and weathered. At this moment, no one was as powerful as Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi. Dogs know better about fusion. No one knows fusion better than them. At the same time, the two people's movements reached amazing synchronization. Gozi and Wang Tiandi's legs were placed in an exaggerated outer eight position. The hands of one man and one dog were raised high, moving in a half arc from outside to inside, and approaching quickly with small steps. Even the fat man's severely injured and drooped arm seemed to be intact under the influence of the mysterious power. There was a crisp sound of fracture, and he was forcibly lifted up in order to complete this historic fusion action. Fusion. Li Erpang's height is short among humans, while Wang Tiandi's height is tall and strong among dogs. At the end of the fusion movement, the breathing, heartbeat, and all frequencies of the two people merged into one, and the fingertips of Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi gently clicked together between one person and one dog. It's too late to say, but in fact, all this happened in the blink of an eye. When one man and one dog merged, Illidan strangely stopped the offensive at hand, opened his mouth slightly, turned his head with an eye patch in their direction, and froze in place without making any movement, as if being caught by Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi. This bold and unrestrained behavior was restrained. In a flash of light, the figures of Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi disappeared in the dazzling light. A man with a height of 1.8 meters and a perfect body slowly came from the end of the light and walked through the air. The dazzling white light has not completely dissipated. A magnetic voice, half like a fat man, half like a dog, sneered and said slowly to the stunned Illidan. Who are you asking me? Illidan was stunned. I didn't ask. I'm not Fat Li Er. I'm not Wang Tiandi, Wang Wu. I'm the one who wants to defeat you. If you insist on giving me a name. I am the strongest fusion warrior, the Fat Emperor. The Fat Emperor smiled, and when the light dissipated, he slowly opened his eyes. His vertical pupils were filled with an emotion called confidence. Above the neck of the perfect golden body, there is a dog head with a pointed mouth. The corners of the dog-headed man's mouth are grinning, showing his evil charm and arrogance. Behind the kobold's fat emperor's butt, a long snow-white dog's tail swayed slowly. There is also a layer of fine white hair growing on the body surface of the fat emperor. But this layer of hair doesn't look ugly, but it adds a bit of wild flavor to fat emperor. Too careless. Although this kobold looks quite handsome. But Yulin, who was hiding in the dark, almost choked on his own saliva when the strongest fusion warrior appeared. This style of painting is really, too indescribable. Such a complete fusion? Listening to the tone of the fat heavenly emperor, it seems that he is not ashamed of the fused posture, but there is a wave of excitement in his tone. Could it be that his personality has been completely integrated? If he calls himself the fat heavenly emperor, it should be a brand new personality. Yulin originally felt it was a pity to lose a rare item, but after seeing the appearance of the strongest fusion warrior Fatty Emperor, she suddenly didn't feel so pity anymore. On the contrary, I was a little glad that I didn't use this prop on myself. If I couldn't think of merging with Goza just now. Emperor Lynchen? I Tengu. Snored. Illidan instantly focused all his attention on the fat emperor, his face stern, as if facing a formidable enemy. After snorting coldly, Illidan transformed into the demon form, pushed forward with both palms, and a dark ball of light with a tail of fireworks slammed towards the fat emperor. That's it? The fat emperor laughed, took a step forward, and slapped away the chaotic attack of Illidan's demon form with one palm. The demonic power that he was so proud of was slapped away by the kobold in front of him, and Illidan's mouth twitched sharply. No. This is impossible. Ha ha ha, the fat emperor arrogantly crossed his hands and raised his head and laughed, you know nothing about power. Yulin couldn't stand it anymore. This fused personality completely has the word Lang engraved on the dog's head, and anyone who is not blind can see it. Yulin no longer hesitated and took out another card from the storage space. Mediocre banana peel. This is a family heirloom that has accompanied Yulin through countless crises. Yulin hesitated for a moment, then crushed the card and threw the banana peel at Illidan's feet. Illidan originally wanted to fly high into the sky and launch a wave of high-altitude bombings to kill this hateful and arrogant kobold. It also saw that the kobold that suddenly appeared was powerful, but it obviously had a shortcoming, it couldn't fly. Since it can't fly, there's nothing to be afraid of. But when Illidan was about to fly, he just happened to see a wrinkled banana peel lying on the ground at his feet. Illidan subconsciously stepped on it. Give me that ring. After Illidan fell directly onto his back and couldn't fly at all, Yulin, who had been hiding for a long time but had been secretly influencing the battle, finally emerged from the shadow state. The moment he appeared, the shattering strike was still brewing, so he shouted to the fat emperor. Although the fat emperor was a brand new personality formed by the fusion of a man and a dog, the memory was still there. The fat emperor snorted disdainfully, but still obediently threw the concentric fraudster ring on his finger towards Yulin. His expression seemed to be full of disdain for foreign objects like equipment. He, the fat emperor, is the strongest fusion warrior and does not need this kind of equipment at all. Yulin put on the ring decisively. The moment two concentric fraudster rings are equipped on the body at the same time, the probability of real damage on the equipment is directly increased to 100%. No more probabilities. As long as the probability is piled up to 100%, all probabilities are clouds. All attacks Yulin makes at this moment will have a true damage effect. Fat Emperor, hold on tight and attack with all your strength. Shadow shattering blow. The strange attack tore Illidan's wings completely apart in an instant, exposing his forest green skeleton. Although the fat emperor looked disdainful, his arrogant personality seemed to still contain Li Erpang's original wretched genes. I saw the fat emperor maintaining a disdainful sneer, but his fists and feet were reaching for Illidan's vitals. You. No. No. Yilin's attack was even more merciless, and her hands danced with daggers, creating dizzying after images. Each knife left a scar deep enough to see the bones on Illidan's body, and green blood spurted out on both of them. In just a moment, the burst of output caused Illidan's health to plummet in the demon state. Illidan stood up angrily. Yilin expressionlessly threw another banana peel at Illidan's feet. Snapped. 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 Ah. 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 Oh. Oh. Ah dash. Tens of seconds later, Illidan's health points were completely cleared. In the end, this boss didn't even have a chance to say his complete lines, so he was aggrieved and was emptied of his health bar by Yilin and a proud kobold, and walked away very peacefully. Obtain the contract of 6 evils. Run out. As the last mediocre banana peel effect came out, the card completely disappeared into Yilin's storage space. When Yilin obtained this item card, it had been used 10 times. He turned the tide for Yilin in crisis after crisis and killed many old men in an honest and fair manner. It can be said that he has numerous achievements. I don't know if I want to obtain such a practical comeback prop again in the year of the monkey and the year of the horse. But regrets are regrets, prop cards are just for use. Although Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi merged to form the powerful fusion warrior Fat Tiandi, the character of Lang Chihua was a little more uncertain. In order to kill Illidan safely and reliably, Yilin had no choice but to this way. There's another one. After the Fat Emperor easily hammered Illidan to death, before Illidan's body turned into ashes and disappeared, he was already standing there with his arms folded, standing proudly in the ruins of civilization, pretending to be cool. Seeing this, Yilin quickly reminded Fat Emperor that there was another 6 evil general on the other side. The Burning Legion soldiers who were defeated by crossing the 2 worlds of clouds were dragged into the air by Ningyu and Xiao Chuer. Ningyu used his remaining spiritual energy to continuously create many concrete walls to disrupt the Burning Legion's formation. Although Xiao Chuer was seriously injured, the apostle's life was extremely tough. As long as his health had not returned to 0, he would be able to fight. I saw Xiao Chuer flexibly swinging in the air with the silk thread spit out from behind her buttocks. Although the damage was not high, she actually completed the harassment task. Yilin took a look from a distance and roughly understood the current situation, and secretly gave a thumbs up to the 2 hard-working teammates. Sure enough, during the trial, there was no need for the apostles to kill each other without a good reason. After all, in most trials, the law of strength in numbers is still followed. Unless the immediate interests are so great that they have to kill each other. The longer an apostle lives, the less likely he is to make enemies in trials. Let's use Yilin herself as an example. Through the trials Yilin went through after her rebirth this time, those who were able to walk out of the other world with Yilin became friends. Even if the relationship is not very good, if something happens, they can still be dragged out and have a picnic together. Those who were not friends died in the other world. Make enemies? Impossible. When the fat heavenly emperor swung his furry dog tail, walked with his head held high, and walked like a martyr, he came to another battlefield, where a fierce battle between the Night Dire and the shadow of the evil god was in full swing. The armor plates on the 2 mechas were messily removed all over the floor. Night Dire looked extremely miserable. The 2 wheels behind his shoulders were completely removed and thrown somewhere. A piece of his head was also knocked off, leaving only half of his head. But even after being dismantled like this, Night Dire was still riding on the opponent tenaciously, shouting, "Who told you to hurt that girl?" while like a desperate Saburo, he punched the armor plate of the shadow of the evil god. Hammer. When Yilin saw the blood bar above the head of shadow of the evil god, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. After summoning Night Dire and using Shadow Kill alternately, his current spiritual energy value is only less than half. If Shadow of the Evil God is still alive and kicking, maybe we can only rely on the Fusion Warrior Fatty Emperor to wear away the remaining health of the boss. Yilin knew in her heart that the Fusion Warrior Fatty Emperor was extremely powerful, but the fusion effect was at most 1 + 1 is greater than 2, not as outrageous as 1 + 1 is greater than 100. After all, the Fusion Must Success card is just a rare item. Rare props have an upper limit on their power. In addition, where the upper limits of Wang Tiandi and Li Erpang were, Yilin knew the upper limit of Fatty Emperor's strength. Let go of that boss, let me do it. Woof. When the Fat Emperor saw that Shadow of the Evil God had been torn apart and its health bar had almost dropped, he became anxious and stopped pretending. He directly raised his palms and killed it. I'm afraid if I go too late, I won't be able to kill the boss. As soon as he got excited, Fatty Emperor's handsome dog head let out a melodious wolf howl, attracting the attention of Ningyu, who was 100 meters away, and Xiao Chuer, who was dangling with spider silk in the air. Where did the kobold come from? When Ningyu looked at it, his face turned pale and his whole body trembled. He thought a new boss appeared from somewhere. Xiao Chuer subconsciously had the same idea as Ningyu. But as I looked at it, something felt wrong. Why does that dog head look more and more familiar? What the hell? Xiao Chuer looked more carefully, and the silk spinning movement of her butt stiffened, and the silk spinning suddenly stopped, and she almost fell from the air. As the Fusion Warrior Kobold Fatty Emperor joined in, the Shadow of the Evil God made a reluctant diddy sound as he got on the bus. A series of live ammunition cannons and laser cannons exploded like no money, tearing holes in the Dire's armor plate. The laser cannon also directly penetrated the chest of the Fat Emperor. But the Fat Emperor was like a male dog in heat, as if he couldn't feel any pain, gritted his teeth, and output like crazy without saying a word. In the end, there was only one boss left. After Yilin fully weighed the risks and benefits, he emerged from the shadows and used a shattering strike combined with killing skills to specifically attack the weaknesses of the evil god's shadow. To put it bluntly, the shadow of the evil god is just a mecha, and its body structure is similar to that of the Night Dire. In the engineering college, when Yilin was constructing various spells on Night Dire, he would dismantle Night Dire and play with it. She was very familiar with this kind of mechanical mechanism. In just a few breaths, the two arms of the shadow of the evil god, Hard Yilin used Blood Jasmine to make two big wrenches and removed her life and death, which was very miserable. There is no card that a boss should have. Blood Jasmine, haha. As Yilin danced the bloody wrench, she felt sad in her heart. No wonder Blood Jasmine is shown as a question mark in the game world. It's not that the game world can't read Blood Jasmine's attributes, but he himself has forgotten the real name of Blood Jasmine. With the Blood Jasmine in this posture, this shape that can be kneaded and caressed, after Yilin completely recovered her memory, she always felt that something was not right. Night Dire is indeed a competent vehicle. Two iron fists tightly hold the jets on the legs of the shadow of the evil god to prevent it from flying up. Under the crazy output of Yilin and the fusion warrior Fatty Emperor, the evil god's shadow's engine oil spurted out, its armor dropped wildly, and its health dropped crazily. In the ruins of civilization with some rules of the game world, Yilin can find a way to kill any monster as long as its health bar is shown. When the blood volume was close to 30%, Fatty Emperor and Yilin had already experienced it, and they were alert in their hearts. Beware of Shadow of the Evil God and create a two-stage transformation like 6 evil generals, Betrayer and Illidan. But what Yilin and Fatty Emperor didn't expect was that after a few minutes of crazy output, as Fatty Emperor punched the shadow of the evil god's chest, the mecha, which had been dismantled with almost only its torso, let out a mechanical scream. The whole body trembled a few times, and then stopped moving. The health points are cleared. Boom. The shadow of the evil god's chest puffed up, and thick black smoke came out. Died. Obtain the contract of 6 evils. As the 6 evil generals' shadow of the evil god was scrapped, Yulin easily grabbed the last key prop. Humph, vulnerable. The fat emperor first sat down on the ground, but quickly bounced up, maintaining a perfect posture with his arms folded and his back straight, standing proudly under the dark sky. It is finally over. With the death of the last boss, the burning legion in the sky fled one after another. They all flew awkwardly in the direction they came from. Some monsters completely turned into streams of light and disappeared in mid-air, while others flew farther and farther away until only a small black dot remained. This kobold is. Ningyu covered his sunken chest, looked pale, and approached cautiously. Friendly forces, friendly forces. Yulin waved her hands, not bothering to explain. Xiao Chuer fell from mid-air, her hand covering her lower abdomen. Her tight-fitting clothes that highlighted her figure had many tiny holes, revealing her fair and red tender flesh. This is also the reason why Xiao Chuer doesn't like to use the Thorn Rose skill, it's too expensive. Fortunately, no key parts were exposed, and it was relatively harmonious. Xiao Chuer walked over openly and without any hesitation. Xiao Chuer looked at the kobold fat emperor and stopped talking. Could he be a fat man and a dog? She really didn't know what words and gestures to use to describe the ridiculous speculation in her heart. Seeing that her teammates were very curious about the origin of the kobold, Yulin explained helplessly, he is the fusion of my pet dog and Li Erpang. He used a rare prop. It turns out it's the effect of the props. Xiao Chuer suddenly realized. Fusion. Ningyu couldn't laugh or cry. The fat heavenly emperor had no consciousness of his own appearance and smiled coldly, I am neither Fatty Li nor Wang Tiandi Wang Wu. I am the strongest fusion warrior, the fatty emperor. Ningyu. Xiao Chuer. Yulin. What I fear most is that the air suddenly becomes quiet. This fat emperor is indeed a fusion of an arrogant dog and a wretched fat man. Well deserved the strongest. The friends all ignored the arrogant fat emperor. After Yulin explained, fatty emperor's style became natural again. Suddenly. Right now. After the last 6 evils will officially disappear from the world. A cold gaze fell on the backs of several people. Including Yulin, everyone couldn't help but shudder and tremble. That feeling is like someone suddenly using their flowing hair from behind to gently scratch the back of the ears, neck, back, and soft flesh. It sounds a bit charming, but in fact, in this atmosphere, this sudden feeling scratching the back will only give people a scary feeling, but will not make people think wrongly. Oh woo! Yulin's pupils shrank sharply and she looked back. I saw the shadow floating in the distance, as huge as covering the world. In the middle, a horizontal crack slowly opened, and an ominous scarlet light poured out from the crack. It's the evil god. After several people killed the 6 evil generals, the evil god who served as the background of the battle seemed to come to life and finally changed. That's a huge eyeball. Except for the arrogant and domineering fusion warrior Fatty Emperor, Yulin, and the others all felt their hands and feet feel cold when they saw the shadow slowly opening its terrifying single eye. Tyranny, chaos, evil, killing, destruction. Before the single eye had fully opened, all kinds of strong negative emotions emerged in the hearts of Yulin and the others. In an instant, bloodshot eyes filled the whites of their eyes, and endless bloodlust suddenly surged in their hearts. Quick! Ningyu urged, trembling all over. Yulin lowered his head and said nothing, and took out the 6 awl-shaped contract of 6 evils. After the 6 awls appeared in Yulin's hand, they slowly floated in front of Yulin, and strangely reorganized into the shape of a dark 6-pointed star. When the black hexagram appears. This world. At that moment when the huge eyelids opened slightly, the desolate world was completely frozen in silence. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 424. The world suddenly stopped. Team main mission, collect the complete evil god contract and find the true body of the evil god mission completed. The familiar reminder to complete the task finally appeared in front of me. The Fat Emperor's fusion effect was still there and he smiled disdainfully. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer let out a big breath and sat down on the spot. It's over. A deep sense of exhaustion came over me. The oppression caused by that eyeball disappeared silently at the moment when the world stopped. No monster or existence in the trial can break through the tower's restrictions. This was the accepted rule among the apostles. Once the task completion prompt appears, it means that they are safe. But at this time, Yilin frowned slightly. This time the freeze seems to have come a little early. And he reached into the storage space with his mind and stared deeply at the prop left in the game world, silently. Add a friend. Recalling his experience in the game world, Ningyu was quite sad and filled with emotion. The Fat Emperor was in a state of fusion. Ningyu hesitated for a few times, but still did not step forward. There were too many uncertainties in this weird personality with the word Lang carved on his forehead. After Ningyu thought for a moment, he decided not to get involved with this problem. If something bad gets on that kobold, it will be big trouble. I didn't expect that Li Changa's ghost actually appeared in this trial. It's really undead? Not necessarily. Yilin's eyes flashed and she interrupted Ningyu, I don't think it's necessarily that kind of weird existence. Ah. Ningyu's eyes narrowed and his mouth opened a little, feeling that Yilin was a little unreasonable. Li Changa even had the word dead carved on his forehead. Is it still fake? Yilin smiled, in reality, I happen to know Li Changa very well. He is not dead, I am sure of it. Yes, not dead yet. At the end, there was another twist, which made Xiao Chuer and Ningyu stunned again. Yilin expressed his speculation. Think about it, this trial is quite special. It is in a digital game world. Every time we leave a trial, we can spend points to heal all our injuries and return to the shape we were in before entering the trial. Is it possible that each of us actually has a backup in the tower that can be manipulated by the tower? Although the description of playing wantonly is quite excessive, it's also heartbreaking. But Ningyu and Xiao Chuer understood. Although what Yilin said was just his guess, it sounded somewhat reasonable. In the eyes of ordinary apostles, the four towers that make this world completely different are like omnipotent gods. A mere apostle backup should not be difficult to complete. I'm pretty sure he's not dead yet. If you don't believe it, I'll go back and ask him to post a selfie on the platform. Yilin gave Beer strong evidence. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer could only nod doubtfully. After all, on the Apostle Forum, the term undead only exists in legends and is purely based on speculation. Regarding everything about the tower and everything about the inner world, there has never been a standard official manual or any rules. The rules currently circulating in the Apostle Circle are just the experiences summed up by the predecessors. That's all. Just as Ningyu thought before, if you rely too much on the so-called experience, you may one day be trapped alive by this taken for granted experience in the other world. Because what Yilin said was a bit shocking, when Ningyu and Xiao Chuer were thinking about Yilin's words, they didn't pay attention to Yilin's familiar smile at the moment. Right now, a voice as gentle as water suddenly sounded from the depths of everyone's mind. Congratulations. The game is cleared. Next, something strange happened. Everyone, including Yilin, suddenly floated up and flew high into the sky. That's me. Ningyu's pupils shrank sharply. As he slowly flew up, he actually saw himself standing on the ruined road from a high-altitude perspective. Consciousness. Yilin vaguely understood the situation they were in at this moment. Their consciousness is quickly leaving the body, overlooking the world from another god's perspective. On the ground, Yulin and others started moving again. The six-pointed star, as black as ink, floated in front of the evil god, and the huge eyeball opened completely. It was an eye that seemed to be filled with all negative emotions. It was as crimson as blood and boundless. Looking into it, deep in the eyes, there seemed to be circles of abyss that could never be seen to the end. The moment the eyeballs opened, an invisible force swept through them, centered on the eyeballs. It was like there was an invisible giant hand pushing hard on the ground. And wherever the invisible turbulence passed, all the rows of ruins, winding roads, severed high-rise buildings, collapsed bridges, everything in the world were quickly razed to the ground. Note that the word razed to the ground is not an exaggerated figure of speech. But at that moment, everything in the ruined world was bulldozed. It was as smooth as a mirror, everything was smoothed out, and as far as the end could be seen, there was nothing protruding from the horizon, which was extremely horrifying. The billowing black clouds are endless, the flat and smooth ground is endless, the world completely turns into nothing the moment the eyes open, as if there are only two pure planes left, monotonous, boring, and dead. Between the black clouds and the mirrored flat ground, only the huge eyeball remained, suspended between the worlds. The smoothed ground beneath it was actually smooth enough to form the reflection of the eyeball monster. Now, Yulin, Ningyu, Fatty Emperor, and Xiao Chuer were already so shocked that they could not speak. They are witnessing the complete demise of a world from a pure god's perspective, like watching a movie. But just witnessing it from a god's perspective, the scene of a world being wiped out in the blink of an eye is still shocking and leaves people speechless for a long time. Next, the big eyes that woke up broke through the clouds and returned to the world of Auranos. Above the clouds, day turned to night in the blink of an eye. The pupils of the big eyes emitted blazing light, splitting the sea of clouds into two with just one glance. Poros and Iolos, who were twisting together, were split in half by the light in an instant and sank into the sea of clouds. The land of ice and snow was submerged in a sea of fire in the blink of an eye. The big eyes trembled, and countless black spots like lice sprang out. They were actually countless monster legions, sweeping across the world spread out on the sea of clouds. The sounds of wailing, fighting, crying, praying. In the sea of clouds, the voices of survivors gathered in the ears of Yulin and others from the god's perspective. The voice of countless people is like a collection of wills, a collection of world wills. The four of them, Yulin, were silently savoring the despair and sadness among them. I don't know how long it took, but those voices became smaller and smaller. In the end, Yulin could no longer hear any sound. The only remaining ray of light disappeared completely. From the god's perspective, the world was dark and void. From now on, there will be no light in the world. A sigh as smooth as a pool of water woke up Yulin and others who were immersed in the short movie. It turns out to be the ending CG. After witnessing the ending of this game world in the weird god's perspective mode, Ningyu and others felt a little depressed. As Yulin speculated at the beginning, killing the 6 evil generals is not a way to prevent the resurrection of the final boss evil god, but killing the 6 evil generals is the condition for the resurrection of the final boss. It's the B ending. Xiao Chuer suddenly felt boring. It's such a good game, no matter who gets the B, bad ending, they will feel panicked. His eyes suddenly changed. They are back where they started. The world is still coming to a halt. The eyeball monster in the distance has not yet destroyed the world, its eyes are only open a slit. And after witnessing the ending of this game by watching CG, the fusion time of Li Erpang and Wang Tiandi has come to an end. Li Erpang is rolling his eyes, lying on the ground in big letters, covered in blood, and the scars are stained with flesh foam. The white bones are clearly visible and look very miserable. Is he dead? Xiao Chuer couldn't help but ask. No, Yulin smiled, stepped forward, patted Li Erpang on the shoulder, and said, "Sister Su said she is pregnant. If you don't come back alive, she will give birth to the child." Grass. Li Erpang jumped up on the spot with a bang. "I don't want to be a father. I don't want to be a father. I'm still a child." Li Erpang is alive again. After fussing for a while and watching another movie, Ningyu suddenly felt that something was not quite right. "Do you feel that this pre-return cutscene is a bit too long?" After being reminded by Ningyu, Xiao Chuer's moist lips opened slightly with a surprised expression, but she didn't say a word. It's not that she doesn't want to say it. But when she wanted to echo Ningyu, they already got the answer. Optional additional tasks are now released. Optional additional mission, reversing the future, kill the evil god. Task time limit, none. Task reward, generous. Return to the real world after the mission is completed. You will experience an unforgettable adventure. You have foreseen destruction and the end. Will you become the only light in despair and turn the tide? Warm reminder, if you choose to continue completing additional tasks, the difficulty level of the tasks will be greatly adjusted. Please act according to your ability. Please act according to your ability. Please act according to your ability. Important things were reminded 3 times. If you refuse to complete the additional tasks, there will be no punishment and you will immediately return to the real world. Please choose whether to stay and continue additional tasks. Yes/no. Familiar multiple choice questions appear in front of everyone. The simple option left Ningyu and others in a dilemma. As if to stimulate the apostle's subjective initiative, the mission reward column was directly marked rich, which is shameful and congratulatory. This is outrageous. Do you wish that the apostle would choose yes and die? Who the hell can really save the world? With the title of Brave Friends, do you really think they are the brave friends? Do you really think that they will jump out of their heads to become the stepping stone for the protagonist and willingly die? Nonsense. Ningyu almost regarded Yilin as the protagonist again. What a damn habit of thinking. He had been thinking this way for several months, and Ningyu still didn't get used to it for a while. Several people looked at each other. This is obviously a team task. In the ending CG, they have clearly and profoundly witnessed the power of the final boss. Obviously, everyone's choices will affect everyone else's choices. Please make your choice within 1 minute. In the frozen world, a short countdown appeared in front of everyone. 59, 58, 57, 56. Tower, urging. I choose. Ningyu took a deep breath and stood up heavily. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 425. Feel sorry. Ningyu barely hesitated and pressed down on no with his fingers. After choosing, he explained with a wry smile. The difficulty of the additional tasks that followed was beyond my capabilities, so I chose to quit. After Ningyu finished choosing, Xiao Chuer also smiled slightly. Understood. Because I also chose no. After all, no matter how high the clearance rating is, it means nothing if you don't get out alive. The two looked at each other, and both breathed a sigh of relief after making the choice to leave the trial at the same time. Now, it's really over. Although they had witnessed the end of this game world, witnessed the end of everything, and witnessed the CG ending of B, both of them felt a little uncomfortable. But then I thought about it, it was just a game, there was nothing to be pretentious about. When I thought about it, all the depression was gone. It's just a game. After Ningyu finished speaking, the tower did not give him a chance to stay any longer, and the next moment it turned into a stream of light and disappeared from the spot. Thank you for your pet. Xiao Chuer looked at Yilin with a smile on her face and waved goodbye. Also, don't be stupid, this boss can't be killed. Before leaving, Xiao Chuer left a kind reminder for Night Dyer saving her. Yilin smiled and responded, this is just a game. After a while, Xiao Chuer also disappeared. Time passed by second, and the countdown was halfway over in the blink of an eye. Yulin looked at the little fat man sitting on the ground with scars all over his body. After hesitating for a moment, he kindly reminded, "I have a bold idea, maybe I can pass the additional task." "Get out." It was okay if Yulin didn't say anything. When Yulin said this, Li Erpang made up his mind instantly, chose no, and said loudly, "Hey. I only have a trace of blood left, and I was almost killed. What else do you want? Are you trying to trick me? It's better not to think so much, and you'll be safe." By the way, before leaving, Li Erpang winked at Yulin and asked cautiously, "That thing you just said, that Sister Su is pregnant, can't it be true?" "Huh, guess what? Grass." Yulin left a mysterious smile to Li Erpang, which made Li Erpang stunned. He maintained his shocked expression and left this world. As Ningyu, Xiao Chuer, and Li Erpang left one after another, everything fell silent. "It's just a game." Yulin lowered his head and repeated what he said to Xiao Chuer not long ago. But at the end, Yulin said again, "Yeah. It's like asking yourself, but also like answering yourself." The boundless shadow in the distance and the slightly opened evil eyes made Yulin feel like she was staring into the abyss at this moment. Wang Tiandi squatted aside and licked the messy dog hair. The world freezes, but the countdown does not. 3, 2, 1, 0. The countdown is over. Accept the optional additional mission, reversing the future, kill the evil god. Number of people on the mission, 2. The difficulty of the trial has been increased. The difficulty of the trial has been increased to Eternal Night level difficulty. Task time limit, none. Task reward, generous. Return to the real world after the mission is completed. Yulin looked at the dog at her feet in surprise. He never expected that such a badass Wang Tiandi would choose to stay at this time. Wang Tiandi grinned and made a V gesture to Yulin tiredly. "I didn't expect that it would be you who stayed." Yulin smiled and touched Wang Tiandi's dog's head, a complicated look flashing in his eyes. "The moment you accept the additional task, the time that stagnated starts to spin again. In this desolate world, there is only one person and one dog left." To elaborate on the reasons why Yulin chose to stay, it is very complicated. But the most fundamental reason is, this world. When he recovered his memory and came here through the clouds, he already understood part of the truth hidden behind this world. What Yulin said to Ningyu and Xiao Chuer was all improvised by him. "Hey, where is the hidden map? This is clearly a destroyed world. To be precise, they are the relics left after the end of the world. I can recognize this dilapidated and desolate smell even if it's been 10 or 20 years. Yulin muttered to herself, took a deep breath of the dusty air, and smiled. Someone, or rather there is a being who created a paradise called Uranos above the clouds after the world was destroyed. Above the clouds, under the clouds, how similar is the setting to the Forbidden Air Zone. You have already expected that I will stay, right? In the prophecy, this is a happy ending story of a brave man who saves the world after going through all kinds of hardships. When time turns again, the dark six-pointed star, as shown in the B-ending CG, is preparing to awaken this ultimate existence and open the eyeballs that destroy everything. From the remains of the shadow of the evil god, the floating black smoke condensed into a thick black gas in the sky, and swept towards the huge eyeball thousands of miles away. No wonder you had to seal my memory on the clouds. I should have discovered earlier that in Uranos, all the lives killed, except for Li Changa's undead, did not have a chaos value prompt. None of them are real. Yulin took out something from the storage space. That was the only super treasure left in the world of Uranos. In Yulin's hands, the prop is like a solidified flame, indistinguishable from fire and water, like fire burning, but also like water flowing, crystal clear, staring into the depths of the flame, as if even the eyes are attracted. The blessing of Auranos. This should be the so-called special scene, right? After Yulin figured everything out, she decided to use it. In the desolate land, a big hole suddenly opened in the dark clouds above Yulin's head. A dazzling white light fell from the sky and landed on Yulin's head. Yulin's hair fluttered, and her whole body was shrouded in white light, as if she were floating like a fairy. Not only Yulin, but the moment Yulin obtained the blessing of Auranos buff, even the dogs around her were wrapped in the dazzling white light. Emperor Wang Tian suddenly woke up from exhaustion. Damn it! Again, cheating again. Come out and see the gods. This is obviously the unfolding of one person's enlightenment and the dog's ascension to heaven. Emperor Wang Tian understood. It understands instantly. Without hesitation, Wang Tiandi swooped down and hung on Yulin's thigh, the kind that would never leave her for eternity. Everything happens in an instant. After Yulin finally used blessing of Auranos in the so-called special scene, the dark eyeball thousands of miles away finally opened it as he wished. The scarlet eyes looked like a blood moon from a distance, becoming the only bright red in the world in the darkness. The inverted pupils gave people an extremely evil feeling. It seems that just by looking at each other, various negative emotions arise involuntarily in the heart, such as anger, sadness, greed, disgust, hatred. That eyeball is like a combination of all the ominous things in the world. Just one glance can make people feel sad, afraid, hard to look at. Boom. The shock wave is like a roaring wave, as shown in the B-ending CG. When the eyes are opened, the terrifying and unreasonable power completely wipes the world in front of them to the ground in an instant. The ruins quickly disintegrated into vegetarian powder under the impact, and then disappeared completely. All of this was replayed in front of Yulin from a first-person perspective, but Yulin was extremely calm. Because all the power was isolated under the white light, Yulin was like a passerby, watching this 5D disaster movie without any pressure, as if she was actually there. The reason why you haven't become a true brave yet is because you haven't met the person who gave you the pentagram yet. This warm reminder of the sudden change in painting style made Yulin dumbfounded. In such a serious and tragic atmosphere, if such a sentence suddenly pops up in front of anyone's eyes, they will feel absurd in their hearts. Remember, trust the science. A familiar voice came from behind Yulin. In an instant, Yulin was shocked, as if she had been shocked by electricity, and slowly turned her head. A Deng, fully dressed, was seen sitting on a flying carpet, driving the car with jerky movements, and looking deeply at Yulin with kind eyes. You are not. Before Yulin could finish speaking, a Deng smiled proudly and interrupted what Yulin was saying. So, you have to believe in science. Why the hell are you still alive and still asking me to believe in science? I obviously collected your experience points with my own hands, okay. Hearing Adeng's words, Yulin was angry and funny, but her complicated feelings finally converged into a faint stream of warmth, and her words became, well, I believe in science. Adeng adjusted his pointed engineer hat and pointed his long staff at Yulin from a distance. Suddenly, Yulin felt a burning pain at the bottom of her feet. He quickly took off his shoes and took a look, only to see a triangular symbol underneath his bare feet. But as the burning pain came, one by one triangle symbols appeared next to the original triangle symbol, and in the blink of an eye, it became a complete pentagram. Goza was stunned. It also felt itchy on the soles of its feet. It pulled up the dog's leg and took a look. Oh my god, the mark originally tattooed on the ball of its foot, like a faded tattoo, suddenly disappeared. Let the punk dog who is at the forefront of the trend return to its prototype in an instant. Wang Guiyue. It turns out that this so-called Mark of the Brave was just a game Easter egg from beginning to end. Yulin was speechless. But this ritualistic coronation of the brave method once again made Yulin feel awesome. Etc. Yilin suddenly thought of the possibility of trying another direction. If someone kills another player in the trial, will the incomplete mark of the brave be transferred with him? Could this be another hidden way to clear the game? While Yilin was thinking, a Yilin virtual shadow with eyes closed slowly descended from the light pillar. A few seconds later, the Yilin's shadow floating behind Yilin completely merged with Yilin. Warmth flowed instantly through the limbs and bones, as if every cell in the body was soaked in the warm nutrient solution, giving Yilin a sense of pleasure that she could not vomit. In the process of Yilin's transformation into a hero, the world has been completely wiped out. There was nothing in the sky and on the earth, only a smooth flat land and endless black clouds. A pure world, but it brings a pure sense of oppression. It's like this world has been squeezed down to 2 points and 1 line, and it's so oppressive that it's hard to breathe. Evil God opened his eyes completely. Countless twisted and weird tentacles protruded from the eyeballs. One by one, the black spots split from the evil God's body. They were so vast that they covered the sky. If we had to estimate the number, it would be an underestimate. There were hundreds of thousands of monsters that were split. Come out. The next 2 chapters are the climax that Bai Yi has been holding back for the entire dungeon. All the preparations are for the climax later. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Yi Xueshi. Chapter 426. After Aden became the one who brought Yilin the little red flower, ah no, the little red star, Yilin finally became a true brave. As the Yilin Phantom and Yilin merged into one in the beam of light, Yilin felt stronger than ever before. You know nothing about power. After a moment, Yilin opened her eyes, a relaxed and happy smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. He felt that now he could speak Illidan's line tactfully without appearing too pretentious. Swiping down with his index finger, the lost player interface appeared in front of Yilin's eyes again. But at this moment, Yilin's player interface has changed to Character Yilin. Sex, male. Age 18. Level 99. Experience // 100%. Occupation Shadow Warlock. Health 9999/9999. Crystal Energy Value 9999/9999. Strength 10.0. Agility 10.0. Spirit 20.0. Will 8.0. Lucky 2.6. Charm 1.4. Talent skills Haunted by Disaster, Follow Like a Shadow, Shadow Kill, Grasp of Annihilation, Summon Mount Night Dire. God-given skills Poison Dagger, Poisonous Assassination, Two-Knife Style, Concentration, Feint Attack, Lock Picking, Bleeding Dagger, After Image Clone, Tearing Wound, Assassin's True Intention, Leap of Faith, Transposition, Two-Knife Styles Ultimate Intention, Virtual Crossing, Assassin True Interpretation, Cloud Body and Wind Body, Divine Skills. What is Urano's blessing? That's what it meant. It means that in a specific scene, at a specific time, with a specific character, a specific cheat is released. Yilin was dazzled by the long list of God-given skills that did not belong to him. But the ability of the full-level Shadow Warlock seemed to be imprinted in the depths of Yilin's soul at this moment, becoming a part of Yilin, and completely integrated with Yilin. This is more than just a simple full level. It is another kind of full level that adds the attribute value to the full value. His dual attributes of strength and agility, with the addition of blessing, directly reached the ultimate level of human beings. Because Yilin is imprisoned by her own strength lock and agility lock, no matter how many blessings she receives, she cannot break through this layer of locks and reach the state of not being a human being. As for Yilin's spiritual attributes, due to the impact of rebirth, the spiritual lock was loosened. Therefore, the blessing bonus directly pushed Yilin's spiritual attributes to the peak, reaching the extraordinary limit. When Yilin's maximum level Shadow Warlock panel appeared, the evil god in the distance fearlessly showed his health bar in front of Yilin. The long blood bar is several kilometers long. At a glance, it looks like the red line on a pregnancy test stick, dazzling. The dark side of the evil god Auranos. LV-100. LV-100. The moment Yulin saw the level of the evil god, he couldn't help but be slightly startled. But then, a glimmer of enlightenment came to my mind. Just like in Yulin's world, agility, spirit, and strength have a layer of locks. This is the limit of the rules. The world Yulin lives in also has the limits of rules. The player's limit is LV-99. The evil god's level is LV-100, which is equivalent to breaking through the level upper limit. Products under different rules, but arriving at the same destination. In a daze, Yulin seemed to understand something. As his eyes opened and closed, Yulin's eyes flashed with light. He smiled and looked at Adeng. "Who are you?" Adeng sat cross-legged on the flying carpet. Hearing this, a meaningful trace flashed across his eyes, and he smiled and said, "We are missing. Miss. Now is not the time to talk about this, young man." Adeng stroked his long white beard and laughed. Then he stood up unsteadily on the flying carpet, and the great engineering staff moved in circles in front of him, 3 circles to the left, 3 circles to the right, 3 circles to the left, and 3 circles to the right. At the end of the horizon, a mighty army of monsters flew crazily towards where Yulin and Adeng were. But Yulin didn't seem to notice the monsters' attack at all, and just stared at Adeng's circular movements. "Want to learn? Think. It's a pity that I don't have time." Circles of light appeared out of thin air behind Adeng. The aperture may be large or small, but on the other side of the aperture, there is another completely different scene. Snowy mountains burning with fire. A land of fire submerged by magma. A mermaid country dyed red with blood. A knight from the kingdom of 2 lions who fought valiantly against monsters and left corpses everywhere. The novice village of Labu town is in ruins. A moonlit jungle filled with scorched earth. The ruins of the port of Izada. The collapsed tower of the great engineer. A series of tragic scenes flashed behind the aperture. But after a few seconds, the scene behind the aperture disappeared, leaving only a vast expanse of light. Pure and soft light. "Pay attention to the left," a cold voice came from Yulin's left side. A handsome blond man wrapped in armor came out from behind the aperture with a cold expression. He was holding a long sword. The long sword had not yet been unsheathed, but the murderous intention hidden in the scabbard had already hit his face. "Homeros. Meet again." The iceberg god Hermelos nodded slightly towards Yulin. Tread, tap, 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 tap. The smooth ground vibrated rhythmically. Behind him, groups of knights with the coat of arms of the double lion kingdom tattooed on their chests, riding tamed monsters, held their heads high, formed a neat queue, and walked out of the circle of light one after another. "I used to be an adventurer, until I took an arrow in the knee. Guards in Rabtown. Next time you come to work, remember not to be lazy. Also, no extra money is allowed. And, you are not allowed to sneak into my room. It's Meg, the landlady from Rabtown. Death is just the beginning of another journey." An old man in wizard robes holding a one-handed sword, with a kind smile, came from the circle of light and walked to Adeng's side. "It's dead Gandalf." Behind him, Ame, ACI, APU, and several old immortals from the academy gathered together again. "Hey, old guys." The 5 veteran drivers looked at each other and then laughed heartily. Ouch. Following a long and powerful howl of a wolf, in the distant aperture, a snow-white beast shadow, with a group of mighty wolf cubs behind it, rushed out of the aperture, like thousands of beasts approaching. "It's the moonlight little she-wolf. Woof 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 dash." The moment the moonlight she-wolf appeared, Wang Tiandi, who was hanging on Yulin's lap and planning to paddle to the bottom, burst into tears. His tail spiraled into the air, and he rushed towards the little she-wolf excitedly. A male dog and a female wolf embraced each other affectionately. Countless wolf cubs surrounded the pair in the center like stars over the moon. Flower petals scattered in the sky, and cold dog food was thrown around. True love that spans half a species. Yulin nodded, feeling quite sad. Master Brave, we are here. In another circle of light, the villagers of Moonlight Village were dressed in ragged clothes, carrying spears and shields, and walked out cautiously, with a hint of fear in their eyes, but on their faces was a determination to move forward. Engineers wearing engineer robes stepped out of the circle of light. Their faces were still childlike, with the youthfulness of their student days, and they saluted the 5 old engineers one after another. Farther away. Master Brave, we meet again. Poseidon is under your care. Mermaid Queen Saren held a gorgeous trident and floated out of the circle of light. Behind her, a group of sexy, cute, charming, and pure mermaids floated out nimbly in the air like fish. Yulin noticed that in the middle of the group of mermaids, there was a mermaid with long pink hair, a happy blush on her face, and a handsome young man with dark skin, who looked like a newlywed couple, coming hand in hand. Yulin looked at Sirian. Saren smiled back and said, reality is shattered, illusion remains forever. 100 meters away. Blacksmith Ge Lang walked out of the circle of light without saying a word. The empty pot of wine had to be refilled at some point. He held a sledgehammer on his back and poured throat-burning liquor into his mouth. Blacksmith Ge Lang, who always had a sullen face in the past, now had a hearty smile on his face, as if he was a completely different person. Following Blacksmith Ge Lang, shirtless strong men, also carrying hammers, walked out of the circle of light. They are the blacksmiths of the land of fire. Kikyo, who was wearing a red and white witch robe, walked out of the circle hand in hand with a white-haired boy with animal ears. Behind them, the young guards and villagers from the land of fire followed closely behind them. Platycodon and Yasha, come to lend a helping hand to the brave man. Thank you for liberating Kikyo. The Yaksha boy smiled at Yulin, his eyes filled with gratitude. Master Brave, we meet again. Han Mai Mei's face with freckles was red and her smile was cute and cute. Thank you. Li Lei pulled his sister Li Nalai over to express his thanks. Li Nalai was hiding behind Li Lei, with an expression that was 3 parts longing, 1 part shy, 3 parts grateful, and 1 part vaguely wanting to refuse in return. Well, this is the worship level reputation. There's not much to say about the reputation level of being able to do whatever you want. One after another, familiar faces stepped out of the aperture of the large serial teleportation technique prescribed by the great engineer. Is this the legendary evil god? Interesting. The white-haired boy holding an ice-blue sword walked out of the circle of light with a cold smile on his face. What Iron didn't expect was that even the captain of the Godi-12, who was once hostile at the end of the kingdom of Amara, also appeared. Obviously Yulin is not that familiar with them, right? Yulin's experiences in the game world flashed rapidly in his mind like a revolving lantern. Yulin couldn't help laughing. Under the threat of monsters in the sky, Yulin suddenly smiled happily and felt comfortable. He recalled the various oolongs that had occurred in the game world during the process of sealing memories, and the weird and absurd misunderstandings of his teammates, which made Yulin laugh. In this lonely and desperate world, Yulin and the dog are just as predicted. A brave man and his dog save the world. He is the only light in this despair. But with the appearance of Aden, he opened a teleportation spell, and people who had interacted with Yulin directly or indirectly stepped out of the circle of light one after another to come to his aid, making this empty, dead, and hopeless world suddenly become lively. The tragic, lonely, and heroic atmosphere also disappeared and was washed away completely. Yulin is no longer the only light. Everyone here, everyone who has ever interacted with Yulin, has become the dawn of despair at this moment. Thank you. Divine Sword Susu came from nowhere, looked at Yulin with a smile, and said something incomprehensible. Yeah. Yulin smiled and looked at Shenji Unsusu. At this moment, she didn't say anything. She shook her head and looked at the monsters in the sky and the terrifying black shadow in the distance again. The dark side of Auranos. Ah. This game is really interesting. Thinking back on the experience in the game world, everything seemed like a dream. A big and vigorous dream. At this moment, it is the end of this dream, the end. Facing the end, Yulin's eyes swept over all the familiar faces, but she felt a rare sense of reluctance in her heart. This was the first time that Yulin had such a feeling of reluctance for a trial. Yulin took a deep breath. Everyone, all the wolves, all the fish, looked at Yulin expectantly. As if waiting for something. Well, what words should I say at this time? After Yulin took a breath, her expression froze, and she quickly leaned into Adeng's ear and asked. Cough 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 dash. When Adeng heard this, he almost choked to death on his own spit. But he thought about it and whispered something in Yulin's ear. Yulin's expression instantly became strange. Weird lines. But Yulin still said. League of Braves. Gather. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 427. Boom. The mighty alliance of braves was fighting with the monster army in the blink of an eye. This is an epic team battle. Led by the mermaid Siren, all the mermaids swam into the sky, their long eyelashes trembling slightly, and the beautiful and moving mermaid song resounded throughout the sky. After the mermaid song was played, patches of light fell on everyone. It's buff. Every soldier seemed to have been drugged, his eyes were red with blood, and he fought fiercely with the monsters falling from the sky without fear of death. The realm of the Sword Master, the ultimate in seamlessness. Sword Master Homelos smiled indifferently, his golden starry eyes opened and closed, and countless blonde girls appeared behind him. They all held the same holy sword of Homelos in their hands. In the blink of an eye, the void was torn apart in the monster army. As Homeros fired his ultimate move regardless of the consumption of mana bars, the other boss-level figures who were once hostile to Yulin, the captain of the GoDi 12 team, did not know whether they felt guilty or went crazy and led them. The subordinate GoDi Division 12 rushed forward to kill them. Everything is turned into ashes, and the blades are like fire. Sting and kill all enemies. Shoot him. Sharpshooter. Break it into pieces, Jinghua Shuiyu. Sit upright in the frosty sky. All GoDi captain level figures took action. The gorgeous skill special effects stung everyone's eyes. There is a blazing flame. There is ruthless frost. There is a long sword that cuts through everything. There is a rain of flowers tearing apart everything. He is truly a captain level character, and his skills and special effects are well designed. Their strength, from this moment, seemed to be on par with the Sword Master Homeros. After taking action, the monsters surging in the sky were like harvested leeks, being torn apart, burned, crushed, and bitten in pieces. The army of monsters was completely harvested. Miserable. Abba, 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 kill, 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 kill. Hey 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 hey, yo-ho. A one-eyed captain, carrying a long sword with many chipped holes, entered the monster army alone, speaking incoherently and looking crazy. The vast army of monsters could not survive for even a moment in the hands of a former boss-level figure. The monsters that are constantly split from the evil god are not even appetizers and cannot stop the progress of the Alliance of Braves. Yulin did not take action at will. In a team battle of this level, unless he really ignored the loss of items, he directly shot himself a Lancer's Blessing and used the S-level enhanced Echo of Doom to make all his skills all have the bad luck status attached to them, allowing them to release large-scale group damage skills. Otherwise, the only thing that Yulin can use in team battles at the moment and has sufficient lethality is Grasp of Annihilation. But this outrageous skill does not distinguish between friend and foe. If it is not used correctly, even teammates will be instantly killed. Wrong. As soon as this thought crossed Yulin's mind, she couldn't help but smile. I almost forgot that I am now at the ultimate level of extraordinary. As he spoke, Yulin jumped into the air. Suidu. With the full level bonus of the Shadow Warlock panel, in this world where everything is dying, there are no longer turn-based restrictions. Yulin can use all the God-given skills at will. Moreover, in the blessed state, Yulin's crystal energy value was directly brushed to the full value of 9,999, which is no different from cheating. Fortunately, that guy Li Erpang gave up at the last moment and did not dare to stay in the trial. Otherwise, seeing Yulin's next performance, she might call her foolish again. Yulin is like a tireless car, and there is no need to consider the issue of consumption. After activating the Void Crossing skill, Yulin crossed the void and passed through the group of monsters alone in the air without any hindrance. She left behind a series of afterimages and her figure was mysterious and unpredictable. Seance. Yulin smiled slightly. Alone in the center of the monster army, facing the vast sea of monsters, he launched the enchantment skill of the enchantment weapon Blood Jasmine without hesitation. In the blink of an eye, the phantom of the red and white style robe appeared on his body, the Blood Jasmine changed in 1,000 ways, and countless tentacle-like blades wrenched a bloody path among the monsters. There were countless monsters, but none of them could stay in front of Yulin for more than half a second. Under the virtual crossing, Yulin crossed 100 meters in the blink of an eye, and her monster-killing efficiency instantly improved to the MVP of the League of Braves. The monsters in the sky were twisted into a rain of blood and residual limbs mixed with minced meat, and fell one after another. Chi chi chi. But in this scene of blood and flesh, Yulin used psychic power to isolate the dark rain of blood from the outside of the body. The clothes on his body were not stained with blood and were spotless. No confusion value. Yulin's eyes narrowed. When he noticed this, he couldn't help but sigh. He lowered his head to look at the divine sword Susu on the ground and remained silent. The appearance of these monsters can be called ghost beasts. Each monster has a different appearance, like many human organs, limbs, and facial features, magnified countless times and piled together in a messy manner. A single monster has no lethality at all. But when the monster reaches a certain scale, it has the destructive power of locusts passing through. With Yulin as the leader, Sword Master Homeros, and captains of the 12 Godii as the vanguard, the alliance of braves used their fastest speed to get within 1,000 meters of the evil god. The closer he got to the shadow that was quietly suspended in the air, the terrifying pressure became clearer. That huge eyeball is like a bottomless black hole hanging in the sky. A simple look at each other seems to suck the human soul in, making it difficult to extricate oneself. A faint layer of light floated on Yulin's surface, making Yulin's body dazzling among the crowd, like a firefly in the dark night. This is the treatment of a brave man. In the 100,000 level team battle, he also occupies the C position and shines brightly. In an instant, scarlet death rays shot out from the huge pupils. Wherever the death ray passed, the soldiers did not even have a chance to say their last words, and were evaporated into blood mist in the blink of an eye. More monsters stood in front of the alliance of braves like a stack of arhuts. Although Yulin and others are now killing weapons that cover a large area in 1 second. But the number of monsters is getting more and more killed, and they spurt out from the body of the evil god in a steady stream. Obviously, the speed of monster production is much faster than the speed of Yulin and others' elimination of monsters. Everyone in the League of Braves, including Yulin, was once again surrounded by the endless army of evil gods. In this pure world where only heaven and earth are left. In this desolate world where there is nothing and even the emotion of despair no longer exists. Only Yulin, who carries the blessing of Auranos, is burning with the last light in the world. Will you become the only light in despair and turn the tide? Yulin raised her head and stared into the huge pupil, as if facing a vast sea of blood, but her heart became calmer and calmer. At this moment, he suddenly remembered the reminder given by Ta before choosing to accept the additional task. Looking down at the crowd, Excalibur Susu stood quietly among the crowd. When Yulin looked down, she seemed to be aware of Yulin's gaze. She raised her head and looked at Yulin. "It's time to end it," Shenjian Susu said with a smile. "This is very Suzayasu. As you wish." Yulin closed her eyes and condensed her telekinesis into an invisible knife. Tiny lines, invisible knives condensed by Yulin's telekinesis, were engraved on the surface of Yulin's skin. Because Yulin's hands were very delicate, and the knife condensed with telekinesis was extremely sharp, the spell had already been left there before the Dionysian factor was activated. When Yulin began to carve the spell on herself, the brilliance of each skill appeared on Yulin one after another. Concentrate your concentration. After image clone. It's time to end it. Everyone on the ground smiled in relief. Everything should end. The realm of the sword master, the ultimate in refinement. Homeros swept out with his sword. Devil-breaking arrow. In Platycodon grandiflorum's hand, an arrow of light as thick as a bucket condensed silently. Wind injury. The Yaksha the giant sword flew across the sky. Hammer. Blacksmith Ge Lang jumped into the air and hit the monster army with a hammer. The last waltz. Saren smiled brightly and sang loudly. Woof 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 dash. A wolf and a dog stand hand in hand and spin wildly in the air. The spiral hurricane tears everything apart, with the wolf and dog accompanying each other. It is very sad and tragic. Let's get closer to science. The 5 great engineers flew high into the sky, and the great engineers' staffs intertwined brilliant spells. A translucent great engineer tower descended from the sky, suppressing everything. In an instant, at a distance of thousands of meters, all the monsters were turned into powder under the intertwining of various skills. No whining, no neighing, no struggling, no pain. A flash of skill light effect blasted past, and in the blink of an eye, Yulin's front was completely empty. In Yulin's eyes, there was only one way left. A broad road. A direct path to the final boss. There are no obstacles on this road. There aren't any monsters. Empty and covered with blood, it looks like an avenue of stars specially prepared for the protagonist. The world, at this moment, seemed to be dead for a moment. After the deathly silence, Homeros smiled, "Go ahead. Ge Lang, go. Aden, go ahead, young man. Boss lady, go ahead. Saren, go." Kikyo smiled, "Go ahead." Everyone looked at the only light in the sky at the same time, and thousands of voices converged into the same sentence. "Go ahead." With a flash of light, Divine Sword Susu transformed from a tall and strong Susu into a white-haired girl wearing a white dress. There was a hint of reluctance in her crystal-clear eyes. "Go ahead, it's time to finish." The white-haired girl closed her eyes and whispered. Poison-quenching dagger. Tearing dagger. 2 big numbers bounced up from the evil god's huge forehead. Transformation. Syudu. Using 2 displacement skills at the same time, Yulin flicked his wrist and in an instant, he crossed a distance of 1,000 meters and arrived behind the evil god. 2 other shadows appeared behind Yulin, 3 times more happy. In the game world, the combo of combining swords with human beings has been used for a long time, and it is executed smoothly. Yulin backhand inserted 2 crystal bullets into both shoulders and submerged them into the flesh. Laugh. The spells already engraved on Yulin's arms began to operate as the core was embedded, and a mysterious light emerged. As the technique started to work, Yilin's skin began to peel off, the flesh and blood disintegrated, and the white bones were exposed. But Yilin seemed oblivious to the miserable condition of her arms. Behind Yilin, a magnificent magical light flashed away. It's over. Magic skill. The ultimate intention of the two-blade style. The light and shadow of two bloody daggers, magnified countless times, appeared behind Yilin. Hiss. At that moment, Yilin wielded hundreds of knives at the same time. In everyone's eyes, the light and shadow of hundreds of swords were so fast that it was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye, leaving only the light of one sword. Laugh. Evil God. The earth. Sky. Dark clouds. With this knife. Split into two. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 428. Chapter 428. Surprised or not? Is it surprising? Not an update. This copy, as of this writing, is considered finished. Later there are some worldview explanations about the relationship between the two worlds. But I finally finished it. This long copy. One word. Tired of frying chicken. Although this dungeon contains many Easter eggs and tributes, overall, it is a quite fun original dungeon. The super invincible Stitch monster is also considered original. Regardless of whether you think it is good or not, the process is also difficult to write, but when I wrote the above two chapters, I was really excited. This is really a story about seeking light in despair. Maybe in the future, I won't write such a thankless original long-form trial again. Too tired. But it was really fun to write. This copy, to put it bluntly, is not actually a game world. To sum up, the dying dream of a lonely god. The picture I imagined was very sad. I don't know if you have got it yet. If I don't get that kind of visual sense, it means that my writing style still has room for improvement. Happiness. Anyway, writing this copy is really tiring. It finally ended perfectly. In fact, at the beginning, there was a branch line of the Ice and Snow Kingdom. But when I wrote about Li Changa's soul, I suddenly discovered it. This atmosphere, if we don't push it all the way to the end, it seems that the momentum will be exhausted. That feeling, like the finale of a dungeon, never comes back again. So this was done. All in all, I'm quite satisfied with the finish. Why is it so tiring to write this kind of copy? Because there is no outline. When I wrote the dungeon, it was like laying a sandbox. Thinking of the rules in the dungeon, I threw 5 people into it. The next direction of the dungeon depends entirely on temporary deductions. This way of writing is really tiring. This copy, when expanded, can write a book of about 1.5 million words. Just think of it as watching the natural disaster over. Not Avi. Summary completed. Let's talk about the following chapters. The subsequent chapters will mainly focus on reality. Not everyday. Put away the foreshadowing, subvert the reality, and make it more fun. Don't forget this volume. We are the apocalypse. Thank you for tolerating my self-willed writing. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 429. The moment Yilin drew the sword. Already understood. The damage caused by these two swords was obviously overflowing. Overflow greatly. Even with the blessing bonus, the full-level Shadow Warlock panel bonus, the various combo bonuses, and the power bonuses of various armor breaking, crit, acceleration and other spells, Yilin can't calculate how high the output of the sword that activates the ultimate intent of the double sword style and magic skill is. At this moment, it no longer matters what the attributes of those skills are. The important thing is that the boss is gone. It was gone in an instant. It was grand when it came, but it was quite sudden when it left. As Aiden said, the human body cannot withstand the power of crystal. That is the power of God. After slashing that sword, Yilin's arms looked extremely miserable, with only 2 bones left hanging. The evil god was split in half by Yilin's sword. What was split apart at the same time were the clouds overhead and the sky. The moment Yilin struck out with that knife, everything was silent and the world was at peace. Warm sunlight shines through the crack in the clouds. Warmth fell on everyone's face. Everyone's faces were filled with complicated and incomprehensible smiles. All rivers eventually merge into the ocean. All flowers will eventually wither. All ice and snow will eventually melt. All ramen end up somewhere. All stories will eventually have an ending. Congratulations, you passed the level. Through the crowd, the white-haired girl walked towards Yilin. Only then did Yilin notice that the white-haired girl was wearing a pure white dress, and her bare feet stepped in the dark blood, but there was no trace of dirt on her. Auranos. The white-haired girl, Uranus, covered her mouth and smiled. When did you find out? Yilin said the answer without thinking. After recovering my memory, within a short period of time, I recalled the experience of Yunhai. It's not surprising that Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiao I will become my divine swords. But the fat man's divine sword will take the form of his wife, which surprises me. Not only the appearance, but also the personality is the same. There is only one possibility. Someone has read Li Erpang's memory and copied the personality exactly like Susu. I can't think of any other possibility than the man behind all this, Uranus. It's you, as Excalibur Susu, who is watching all this. Aurano's eyes were bright and he seemed very happy. He clapped his hands and said with a smile, that's the right answer. When Auranos is talking to Yilin. The evil god was split in half by Yilin and his health bar was completely emptied. His body was as huge as a miniature celestial body. It was collapsing little by little and turning into black ashes. With the breeze, it floated to everyone in the desolate world. A corner. In the blink of an eye, the evil god completely turned into ashes and disappeared. In its original place, only a faint wisp of black air remained. The black energy quickly condensed into another black-haired girl. The black-haired girl was wearing a pitch-black dress, her skin was dark, her feet were also barefoot on the ground, and her face was as delicate and cute as Auranos. The two stood together like a pair of twins. Auranos looked away from Yilin's face, smiling brightly, like an innocent girl who discovered her favorite toy, and looked at the black-haired girl. Goodbye, my nightmare. Goodbye. There was a hint of reluctance in Black Auranos's dark eyes, but he shook his head helplessly, without leaving any more words, waved his hand, turned around and walked away. With every step he took, Black Auranos's thin body faded away a little. Step by step, little by little. When he reached the horizon, the transparent back of Black Auranos completely disappeared, as if he had never appeared before. This world is completely pure. With the disappearance of the evil gods and monsters, the acid rain was pouring down without knowing when it would stop. The sky after the rain is exceptionally clear. Yilin's knife split everything, including the sky. The air around him also became fresher. It's all over. Auranos said with a smile. Yilin still had many questions in her mind. Questions were lingering in Yilin's mind, but she didn't know how to ask them. Kid, I know you have a lot of questions now. Looking at Auranos's face, Yilin looked surprised. The feeling that Auranos gave Yilin was very strange. At first glance, she looks like an ignorant girl. At a second glance, she looks like a young woman with mature charm. At a second look, she looks like a beautiful woman who has experienced many vicissitudes of life. It was obviously the same face, but in an instant, it gave Yilin various different feelings. My dreams, their dreams, are over. Auranos slowly closed his eyes, and the sunlight shone on the earth. His long eyelashes left a mottled light shadow on the girl's fair face. Congratulations, you reversed the future and witnessed the happy ending. Yulin pondered for a moment and asked, so, this is all just a game? Then, who are they? Auranos did not answer Yulin's previous question. Regarding the latter question, she smiled and said, they are my missing. Missing is a kind of power. Well, let's call it the missing body. Missing body. Yulin carefully considered the new term Auranos said. So, you created all of this? We. Auranos smiled but did not answer. She floated towards the League of Braves. No one in the League of Braves showed any surprise at the appearance of Auranos. Auranos came to the crowd. Bye, Kira. The woman named Kira smiled slightly, and in a blink of an eye her whole body was glowing with light, turning into a subtle stream of light and disappearing, and merged into Auranos' body. Goodbye, Nicholas Handsome. Goodbye, Hanmaime. Goodbye, Toshiro. Goodbye, adventurer with an arrow in his knee. Goodbye, Meg. Uranus said goodbye one by one, and to Yulin's surprise, Uranus almost remembered everyone's name. Even in Yulin's impression, he was a completely inconspicuous little character. Yulin suddenly understood what Auranos meant by missing body. All of this is the result of her missing. Like a big dream, there is a time to wake up. As everyone disappeared, the place became empty, until only a few people remained. Those are all NPCs that Yulin has interacted with a lot in the game world. Since they were kept by Uranos until the end, they must have a pivotal position in Uranos' heart, otherwise they would not be able to play an important role in the game world. Seeing Auranos say goodbye to everyone one after another, and as every familiar NPC disappeared, Yulin couldn't help but feel a faint sadness in her heart, and did not step forward to disturb Auranos. At this moment, after Yulin killed the evil god and completed the so-called additional task, the task completion prompt from the tower came belatedly. Optional additional mission, reversing the future, kill the evil god. Mission completed. Get Dark Temple Blueprint. Big rewards. That's it? Why does it seem like I was rewarded with something weird? Yulin was shocked. What surprised him was not the completion of the task, nor the so-called generous reward. Yulin still has countless questions. But when the mission completion prompt appeared, Yulin knew very well that he didn't have much time left. Thinking of leaving this world, Yulin quickly walked forward and came behind Ulanos. Why did you choose me? Auranos did not turn around and said softly, no, you chose us. What's the meaning? Auranos turned around, his smile silently smoothed, and Yulin read an emotion called exhaustion on that beautiful face. Ask other questions, time is running out, isn't it? Auranos waved his hand, and an hourglass appeared in front of Yulin out of thin air. As the silver sand in the hourglass passed quickly, Yulin understood that this was the time he could still stay in this world. Li Changa? No, forget it. Yulin originally wanted to ask about Li Changa, but after thinking about Li Changa's performance in the trial and what he said before his death, Yulin vaguely understood that Li Changa. What kind of place is that place you are talking about? Can you see through the future? Ulanos laughed, his bright eyes curved into crescent moons. What do you think is the future? Yulin did not expect Uranus to ask a rhetorical question at this time. After hesitating for a few seconds, Yulin shook his head, I don't know. Since you have no idea about the future, it makes no sense for you to ask this question. Is this world destroyed? Yes. How was it destroyed? Auranos hesitated for a moment, but still said, false, and click. But just after Auranos said two words, the sky that cleared the clouds and became clear suddenly opened a dark gap, and pale hands stretched out crazily from the gaps in the sky, as if to grab something. Seeing this horrific scene, Yulin looked shocked and had no idea what was happening. Uranus raised his head, glanced at the crack in the sky and the pale palm stretched out from the crack. His face turned a little pale, and he laughed at himself. Didn't you expect that even name is a taboo? Haha. Blinking, Auranos playfully changed his expression. My nightmare, the evil god. After thinking for a moment, Yilin seemed to understand. This world was completely destroyed. In a war. In a high-dimensional war. That dark evil eye is the leader of the world. After the destruction of this world, that ferocious and terrifying posture became Auranos' nightmare. Everyone died. Except her. She is lonely. So Uranus created all this. After a lonely and helpless girl created such a game, she quietly waited for someone to come to her door and break the game, completely destroying her nightmare. Although Yilin did not understand the various reasons clearly, the general context was deduced by Yilin through his own experience and the few words of Auranos. While Yilin was thinking, cash your game clearance reward first. Ulanos waved to Yilin, and Yilin's blood jasmine turned into a pile of blood-red liquid and floated into the air. At the same time, Auranos stretched out her hand, and 2 drops of bright red blood squeezed out from her pale palm and quickly merged with blood jasmine. After merging 2 drops of blood jasmine floated toward the blacksmith Ge Lang not far away. Blacksmith Ge Lang conjured a stove out of nowhere, and after receiving the drop of blood, he began to beat it. It seems that I can still fulfill one of your requests. Well, it's not too much. Auranos closed his eyes, as if he was calculating or thinking. After a moment, he raised his index finger in front of Yilin. Yilin stared at the hourglass that kept passing by, her mind spinning rapidly. Are there any additional rewards? I want the full-level Shadow Warlock panel, is that okay? Your blessing is eternal, do you still have it? If it doesn't work, just reluctantly give me all the skills of the assassin. This is too much. After Yilin made 5 or 6 requests in one breath, Auranos' fair little face became darker and darker. Then, I want the career bonus of Shadow Warlock. Yilin naturally knew that the conditions just now were a bit excessive. But that's what negotiations are like. After settling for the next best thing again and again, and quickly testing the bottom line of not going too far, Yilin quickly revealed his true purpose. Auranos closed his eyes. Yilin took out the death revolver from the storage space. Storage space is limited. It was impossible to bring 2 complicated firearms from the world he was in into the storage space. But if it is a prop certified in the other world, as long as it is turned into a card, there is no such restriction. I want to take this thing with me as a souvenir, isn't it too much? For you, it should be just a piece of cake. After all, this is the engineer's staff that he worked so hard to build, so it would be a pity to have it go without him. Auranos, who had kept his eyes closed, finally opened them. The moment he opened his eyes, a trace of obscure data flow flashed through his snow-white eyes. She smiled. Okay. But you need to pay a small price. Well, for you, it's a small price. Finished. Auranos pointed towards Yilin in the air. Acquire the epic title Shadow Warlock. A prompt flashed in front of Yilin's eyes. The death revolver also turned into a card, falling into Yilin's palm, and the delicate card kept spinning. On the front of the card, there is a silver revolver with mysterious textures engraved on it. While Yilin was bargaining with Auranos, the blacksmith Galang also finished the work. After being hit by Ge Lang's violent hammer, blood jasmine completely turned into a drop of blood. A drop of red and transparent blood. Once when the apostle level increased and Yilin unlocked the forging function, she wanted to refine the blood jasmine. The DP required to refine blood jasmine can be said to be an astronomical amount for the current Yilin. Unexpectedly, in this trial, the step of refining blood jasmine was completed by mistake. What makes Yulin even more unexpected is that the mysterious substance that is called perfect metal in the real world and is said to come from meteorites is actually a drop of blood. Open your mouth, ah. Ah. Auranos coaxed Yulin to open her mouth like a child. Yulin was stunned for a moment, but subconsciously pronounced the word ah. Good. Auranos's face turned into the shape of a young woman again, and he smiled sweetly, showing his allure and charm. With a flick of her fingers, Yulin didn't even have a chance to react. The drop of blood shot into Yulin's mouth and disappeared in the blink of an eye, completely absorbed. Yulin was shocked. What's happening here? Did I swallow the blood jasmine? Did I eat my weapon? Did I eat Xiaohong and Xiaobai? This has no taste at all. All right. Auranos clapped his hands as if he had completed a trivial task. Yulin touched her belly in surprise. After swallowing the refined blood jasmine, she didn't feel anything strange at all. After completing all the above, less than 1/10 of the sand in the hourglass is left. The reward has been received. I'll sort it out slowly when I get back. Yulin ignored the changes in his body for the time being. As the god of this world, Uranus had no intention of harming him, and Yulin was not worried. I have a few final questions. Just ask. Auranos's face became that of a child again, childish, carefree, and innocent. Do you know where I come from? No. Yulin's expression changed slightly, and he asked the question he most wanted to know the answer to, then what is the relationship between my world and your world? The world, Auranos sneered, looked up at the sky, and said slowly. The world you are talking about is just a boat, a small boat that can sink at any time. Yulin's eyes narrowed and her voice lowered involuntarily. Then what is outside the world? The river, the endless river. Humanity. The sand at the bottom of the river. In an instant, Yulin's heart seemed to be filled with huge waves. Auranos noticed the change in Yulin's expression, smiled, and said, You are fighting hard just to reach the end. However, that is an unattainable dream. Yulin took a deep breath and asked, How about you? Auranos casually conjured up a small blue officer's hat, carefully put it on his head and straightened it. I am, Captain. But every time she answered a question, the color of her body became lighter. After answering Yulin's doubtful questions, she became almost transparent, but she still smiled happily on the surface. I understand. Yulin nodded seriously and looked at Uranus' almost transparent body. He vaguely understood the price Uranus paid to answer his questions. A faint sadness arose spontaneously. Yulin was silent for a full half-minute, and only a tiny wisp of quicksand remained in the hourglass. Looking into the girl's eyes, Yulin asked the last question, Why? Are you happy? The girl didn't answer and asked instead. Yulin slowly typed a question mark. Let me ask you, did you have fun? He didn't expect that Auranos would ask such a strange question at the end. Let me ask you, did you have fun? Auranos was persistent. She puffed up her cheeks and came close to Yulin, staring closely into Yulin's eyes. Those crystal clear eyes seemed to be able to penetrate into the depths of Yulin's soul and tell whether Yulin was lying. The moment Uranus asked this question, everything in the game world flashed through Yulin's mind again. Rab Town, Izada Port, the land of two lions, the land of fire. The customs of different places. Meg, Homelos, Platycodon, Aden, Yaksha, Hanmaime, Lile. A character with a distinct personality. After a while, Yulin nodded seriously, happy. That's enough. A blush appeared on Auranos' pale and transparent face, and a satisfied smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. At this moment, Yulin's breathing suddenly stopped. He felt that at this moment, Uranus, with a satisfied smile on his face, was so beautiful that he could not describe it in any words. When Auranos spoke his last words, the sand in the hourglass has completely passed away. In an instant, everything was silent. Everything in front of him suddenly stopped. Time is up. Auranos's expression was completely fixed in that satisfied smile. Yulin looked at the motionless white-haired girl, suddenly lowered her head, and couldn't help but sigh. In the distance, the dog was lying in front of the motionless little female wolf, howling and crying, turning into tears. When Yulin was talking to Auranos, the little she-wolf was left by Uranus until the end, and in those short few minutes, Wang Tiandi and the little she-wolf said goodbye. This farewell will be forever. No wonder the dog cried so sadly. This scumbag is not too scumbag either. Really, it's over. When Yulin said this, she felt a little disappointed. Auranos's last words made Yulin completely understand what kind of place this was. From beginning to end it should be. This world was once the same as Yulin's world. Maybe there are existences similar to apostles. Auranos is the god of this world. One day, that eyeball invaded the world. In some way, this world is brought to destruction. The desolate scene was somewhat similar to the doomsday Yulin had witnessed. Everyone died. There is only one lonely girl left, the god Auranos. I don't know how many years, maybe 10 years, or maybe 100 years. Auranos created a game world on the clouds. It's like a dream. The NPCs in Auranos are actually people who once lived in this world, living people. God used an alternative way to make them live in a magnificent and fantastic world on the clouds, like living in a big illusory dream. As Saren said, reality is shattered, illusion remains forever. Auranos' power has reached a level that Yulin cannot fathom. She even knew how Yulin and others got here. She might even know about the existence of apostles. But Uranus is so powerful, and her world is still destroyed by that eyeball. One can imagine how terrifying the existence of the one whose name cannot even be mentioned is. Somehow, Yulin suddenly remembered the pale palm that almost stretched out from behind the mirror in Styx Junior High School and killed them all. And at the end of Green Town, Green knows the identities of all of them. These existences are completely different from other characters in the world. What role do they play in the other world? Although most of her conversations with Yulin were like playing riddles, Yulin got the answers he wanted from these riddles. The world is a boat, and the boat is in the river, and human beings are just small and humble dust. These words completely subverted Yulin's concept of the world. Raising her head, Yulin squinted her eyes and looked into the dazzling but not annoying sunlight. Her ship sank, but our ship is still there, haha. It turns out that all of this was a dream that she didn't want to face or wake up from when she was dying. Before the additional mission was released, the B ending that Yulin, Ningyu and others witnessed with their own eyes was the real ending. And Yulin, under the halo of the protagonist and surrounded by everyone, killed the evil god and broke through the darkness. This so-called happy ending is just a dream. A dream that Uranus, who was trapped in a nightmare and unwilling to face, wanted to see. Extremely ironic. In the main mission, the so-called reversal of the future is just a false future that Auranos wants to see. This happy ending, this perfect ending, is just an illusion. Yulin only fulfilled Uranus's wish. Are you happy? Auranos's last question was not only asked to Yulin, but also to himself. Are you going to have the adventure of a lifetime? No wonder it is said to increase the immersive experience. Without sealing the memory of reality, nothing in the game world would leave such a deep impression. By now, when Yulin was about to leave this broken world, click. Changes occurred suddenly. When Auranos was frozen, textures like broken glass suddenly appeared around him. Auranos actually broke free from the restraints, and his transparent fingers, entwined with a faint black energy, touched the defenseless Yulin's forehead in an instant. Yulin was immediately stunned. He is already waiting to return. What's even more unexpected is that our Anos can break away from the rules and take action when the world is frozen. Our Anos pointed at Yilin's forehead with a smile on his face. I wish you good health. I curse you to always be happy. I curse you to never forget us. I wish you happiness and good health. I curse you to reach the end. With a look of astonishment on his face, the scene of our Anos cursing him with a smile was completely etched in Yilin's sight. Unforgettable. Yilin and the dog disappeared completely. After Yilin and Wang Tiandi were teleported away, the stagnant world begins to turn again. Our Anos looked at the place where Yilin and Wang Tiandi disappeared, thoughtfully. Say hello to Xiao 11 for me. Our Anos said with a smile. Goodbye, Captain. At the end, the remaining little she-wolf, Ge Lang, Hermelos, and Saren all smiled and said goodbye to our Anos. Immediately afterwards, everyone turned into a blue stream of light and merged into our Anos' body again. The sky was filled with terrible cracks from unknown time. In the cracks, densely packed pale palms stretched out from the deep darkness. The dark cracks and pale palms have become the last stunning scenery in this world. Soon, cracks opened in our Anos' side. One palm after another attacked our Anos crazily and greedily. In this broken world, the girl is left alone. In other words, a god. A lonely god. I'm tired. Our Anos closed his eyes. Let those pale palms tear her apart and devour her. Violators will be cleared. Ziza. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 430. In front of Yilin's eyes, the scene changed. When Yilin reacted, she was already suspended in the white light that filled the sky. Until this moment, he was still confused. What did our Anos do at the end of the trial? Curse. A curse filled with love and justice. That familiar feeling is clearly the power of curse. Finally, in Yilin's picture, the black energy wrapped around the transparent fingertips was clearly the light effect of the curse. Around the fingertips, Yilin could even distinguish the phantoms of the faces. There were Ge Lang, Homeros, Platycodon, Aiden, and all the familiar characters. In the words of our Anos, those people were all transformed by her past thoughts. She finally used missing to turn into a curse and passed on her wish in this form. The position where her fingertips pointed, Yilin's expression gradually returned from confusion to calmness, and she subconsciously touched the piece of skin with a different touch with her hand. She knew that I had resentment, so she chose at the last moment, curse me. Customs clearance evaluation is being calculated. While Yilin was thinking about the profound meaning of our Anos' last move, the customs clearance settlement had already begun. Yilin sighed. In this trial, Yilin got many answers. But at the same time, there are more doubts. Looking back suddenly, Yilin suddenly realized that the other world was not as simple as he initially thought. The world inside is not just a copy generated by the tower. The world where our Anos is located is an extremely real world. If the other timeline before Yilin's rebirth continues to develop, will it become like the world under the clouds? The sky and the earth are desolate. So in the world Yilin currently lives in, is there really a god like our Anos, silently watching all this? Yilin sighed. He could no longer return to our Anos. He had more doubts and had to find the answers himself. Final clearance rating, D. Puff. Yilin almost spit out a mouthful of blood when she saw the final evaluation of the game. D. D. Total attribute value reward at 0.1. Distributed based on Apostle 1010 trial performance. Agility at 0.2, Spirit at 0.1, Luck -0.1, Charm -0.1. The death point reward is being settled. Difficulty bonus, 80%, Eternal Night level difficulty. Evaluation bonus, none. Acquire death points, 5,400. Yilin was confused. I feel like this trial was a waste of time. This unscientific. He and Guza worked hard to pass the additional tasks. In the additional tasks, his contribution is also in the C position. No matter what, it is impossible to have only a D-level clearance evaluation. But after a while, Yilin suddenly realized. This is what our Ranos calls the price. This is more than a small price to pay. It's been a long time since Yilin tried to get below S rank rating. Yilin was still a little unaccustomed to such a sudden visit. In fact, if Yilin's above-mentioned thoughts were posted to the Apostle Forum to complain, he would probably be sprayed to death by countless apostles who were struggling on the line of life and death. According to incomplete statistics, the most common evaluations in trials are B and C, and those who can obtain A-level evaluations are the elites among the apostles. Being able to get an S-level rating or above would be like smoke rising from the ancestral grave. Why don't we burn some beautiful paper figurines for our ancestors and serve them well with all kinds of martial arts? After struggling for a while, Yilin had no choice but to accept this painful result. He asked for the reward himself, although he did not agree to bear the price at that time. Isn't this because Uranus gave it too quickly, leaving Yilin with no chance to refuse? Wait a minute, it stands to reason that the price and the reward correspond to each other. Since the evaluation can be deducted like this, then the reward given by Uranus should exceed expectations. Moreover, there are also a lot of death points, at least there is no loss. Yilin could only comfort herself in this way. The settlement process is still ongoing. Now draw random rewards. Obtain Mikarapai *3. Yilin. Level improvement. Congratulations to the 3rd level apostle for arriving on the 25th floor of the Tower of Death. Current level, LV25. It has been detected that Apostle 1010's body is not damaged and does not require repair. Return. Mali Labs. In the secret room. Li Erpang, Yilin, and Wang Tiandi disappeared from the real world for a full minute before reappearing in their original places. The location is unbiased. No more time, no less time. The two of them looked at each other in confusion. Wang Tiandi let out a long sigh and lay lazily on the ground, his tail drooped, and his expression was sad, like a lovelorn dog. Li Erpang stared hard. Although he failed, his momentum came out. A long time. Yilin had a calm expression and was about to stand up when Li Erpang finally couldn't hold himself any longer and broke the silence. Damn it, why did you pay for it? Didn't you do additional tasks? Yilin pointed at Li Erpang angrily and funny, what's wrong with you to think that I alone can defeat the final boss? If you don't participate, I will naturally quit, otherwise what? Gozu rolled his eyes. It discovered that this guy's deception was completely natural and had no sense of violation. So insidious. Originally Gozu wanted to raise his middle paw at Yilin to express his feelings. But now it's not in that mood either. We can only let Yilin wantonly fool Li Er into being fat. Besides, Emperor Wang Tian didn't like Li Erpang. As soon as it recalled the fat heavenly emperor after merging with Li Erpang, it became so angry that it burst into rage, and its hair exploded. Emperor Wang Tian was very angry. Why was it the fat emperor instead of Wang Tianpang? Or is it Wang Tianer? The merged personality actually has the word fat on its head. Doesn't it make Wang Tiandi look very shameless? I get very angry every time I think of the dog. So it's not broken either. When Li Erpang heard this, he thought about it carefully, it makes sense. He instantly accepted Yilin's statement. Li Erpang was simple-minded and did not continue to struggle with this matter. After all, the trial is over, the past is like the past, and there is nothing to worry about. He patted his repaired body and used his final move burn, fat. After that, Li Erpang shrank again. Li Erpang patted his flat belly and sighed. It seems that before the next trial, I have to overeat again to accumulate fat. Because of these two matching skills, Li Erpang was destined to be either eating or on the way to eat. Before leaving, Li Erpang viciously repeated the oath he made during the trial. I will never team up with you again in this life. Once you violate this, I will be a dog. A fat dog. It's too confusing. If he hadn't chosen the most durable profession, he would have been dead long ago. Returning from the trial made Yulin feel like she was in another world. In that world, Yulin seemed to have lived a completely different life under the immersive experience. After he returned, he said hello to Molly and Ling Yi in the laboratory. Seeing that both of them were fine, he hid with peace of mind and sorted out the gains from the trial. By the way, Yulin found that Lao Pan was still hanging around like crazy among a group of beautiful researchers. He was fine and still alive. It turns out that with high luck, you can really do whatever you want. Without seeing it with her own eyes, Yulin could never imagine how Lao Pan passed the cruel tests again and again. What the hell? When Yulin started to sort out the harvest of the trial, she just put her consciousness into the storage space and was stunned for an instant. The storage space is actually filled with bright crystals. It turns out that this is the main culprit that caused the clearance evaluation to be reduced to D level. Yulin was very emotional. All of a sudden, the fact that the customs clearance evaluation broke the historical lower limit was forgotten. It even feels a little fragrant. In the world of Auranos, Yulin actually mastered the knowledge of crystal pattern technique. But for the crystal pattern technique, Yulin is currently unable to find an energy source that can replace the crystal. This warehouse full of flawless crystals is enough for Yulin to use for a long time. Thank you, Xiao Wu. Yulin's words definitely came from her heart. Yulin's eyes were shining brightly as he scanned the pile of crystals in the storage space. Ah, so shiny. After watching for a full 10 seconds, Yulin finally withdrew his thoughts with satisfaction. First, the Apostle panel. With a thought, the Apostle panel appeared in front of Yulin. Ilan, ID, 1010. Title Shadow Warlock, Epic Level. Health 100%. Psychic Energy Value 1290. Module Apocalypse Knight, Damaged. Essence Unknown Hybrid, 19.6% Unknown Ancestry, 80.4% Carbon-based Homo sapiens. Level LV 25, 3rd level Apostle. Strength 4.2. Agility 5.2. Spirit 8.6. Will 8.0. Lucky 2.5. Charm 1.3. Skills follow like a shadow, max, haunted by disaster, max, bloodthirsty disaster, 3 stars, summon the Mount Night Dire, 1 star, grasp of annihilation, 2 stars, shadow kill, 1 star, banish, title skill. Enhanced killing technique, A level, yin yang hands, B end level, echo of doom, S end level, crystal pattern technique, S level. Yulin habitually glanced at the changes on the Apostles panel. Because the Apostle panel is the most intuitive reflection of measuring the Apostle's strength. Yulin's initial attention was directly attracted by the 4 fonts of Shadow Warlock that glowed purple and exuded epic light. What an epic title! It's really unique. Even the font effects are different from the original Skeleton Gentleman. Speaking of which, because the title level of Shadow Warlock is much higher than that of Skeleton Gentleman, and it also has attributes, Tower did not ask Yulin for his opinion at all, and just dismissed the mediocre Skeleton Gentleman from the beginning. The title was covered. Good guy. Yulin squinted her eyes, stared at the blinding purple light, and pointed with her finger. Epic titles have attributes. Just be awesome and that's it. Title, Shadow Warlock, Epic Level. Hand speed add 50%. Psychic energy value add 50%. Spell power add 50%. Special skill, banishment. The price is extremely high. Yulin silently gave a thumbs up to Xiaowu for his selfless dedication. When I think of Olano's ending and experience, I can't help but feel a little emotional. In that real world, the world of Olanos was destroyed. A lonely god created the world of Auranos. She waited alone, waiting for a brave to shatter her nightmare and interpret a vigorous epic story. So when we create an account, that initial white space will be called the resting place. Yulin gradually connected everything. Let's talk about title rewards. Yulin has always been on the spiritual side, and her biggest shortcoming is still her spiritual energy value. Although he had advanced to the 3rd level in just 6 months after becoming an apostle. This kind of speed in which almost every trial is a leapfrog upgrade. If it were posted on the forum, it would definitely be regarded as bragging, and no one would dare to believe it. But unfortunately, Yulin's time to become an apostle was still too short. Coupled with the inherent shortcomings and the outrageous upgrade speed, the mental attributes have not yet broken through the first lock and reached the extraordinary realm. The 3 apostles of strength, agility, and precision will undergo different changes once they break through the lock. If before breaking through the lock, you can still kill in the ordinary way, once you break through the lock, everything will be different. The epic title that Yulin obtained from Olanos undoubtedly completely solved Yulin's current shortcomings from the root. Furthermore, the bonus of this title is strengthened based on a percentage. Even in the later stages, this title will never go out of style, and will most likely accompany Yulin throughout his life. Unless there is a more awesome title. For example, a legendary title such as Spirit add 300%, Psychic value add 500%. Otherwise, Yulin will not change even if she is killed. With the bonus of the epic title, the spiritual energy value will directly exceed 1000. Releasing the disaster haunting can control people until they die. If you are in the state of echo of doom, tisk tisk. Yulin imagined a group of people clamping their legs and twisting and panting in place, or a large group of people dancing in place. He suddenly felt that he seemed to be drifting away on a terrible road. As for other bonuses, hand speed, spell power, etc. were good, but they couldn't be tested for a while, so Yulin had no choice but to give up. In addition to the above bonuses, Yulin also received a title skill. Exile. Exile. Grade none. Consumption 5% spiritual energy value. Effect click to view details. Explanation in these short 5 minutes, you will be able to do whatever you want. In reality, it is estimated that it will be difficult to use it in a short time. Yulin looked at the attributes of the title skill, her expression neither happy nor sad. It's nothing to regret, it's the skill that comes with the title anyway. The attributes that come with the epic title are already worth the price of admission. Yulin can't shamelessly complain that the gifts aren't sweet enough, right? Exiting from the title attribute interface, Yulin looked at the blinding light of the epic title with satisfaction, becoming more and more pleasing to the eye. I have heard before that some epic titles can be used to obtain an officially recognized identity in different trials. I wonder if the identity of Shadow Warlock will work. A thought flashed through Yulin's mind. Not too entangled. After all, it's just an unknown. Again. The meal is already filling enough. Whether the remaining gifts are fragrant or sweet is not too important. Yulin glanced at the Apostle panel again. Previously, because the epic title was so bright, Yulin inadvertently ignored other changes on the panel. When Yulin's attention turned away from the title and looked at the other entries on the panel, Yulin's eyes gradually widened. Meng Meng. Meng Meng. Yulinfen rushed to Meng Meng's laboratory in a hurry. What's the fuss about? N. Molly looked up from a large computer screen, her expression unconcealed by fatigue. When she saw Yulin barging in, she made an angry expression on the surface. She stood up, put her hands on her hips, pointed at Yulin's nose and cursed, "Didn't I tell you many times not to call me by that name in broad daylight? If my assistants hear it, do I still need Molly's face? I made sure there were no outsiders inside before I entered." Yulin had a strange expression and walked directly to Molly and said, "Quick, I'm in an emergency, draw my blood quickly." "Draw blood?" When Molly heard this, she was suddenly startled. "Yes, draw blood." Yulin's expression was a bit heavy. "Didn't you take it last time? The test results are normal." "No, it's different this time." Yulin shook her head and said seriously, "Believe me, it's definitely different this time. Do you want to keep it a secret?" "Want? Oh. Then I'll do it myself." When Molly heard that she could do it herself, she excitedly rolled up her sleeves, took out a metal box from the side, and took out a thick 50 ml syringe from the sterile packaging. "Yulin, what the hell are you excited about?" Yulin couldn't laugh or cry. However, Molly's cheerful look diluted the seriousness Yulin brought when she came. Molly's movements were very skillful and she finished it in one go. "It's red." Looking at the dark red venous blood in the needle, a ridiculous idea came to Yulin's mind. He was really afraid of drawing out the green blood. Then, Molly rubbed her palms, glanced at Yulin curiously, and said tentatively, "Do a microscopic examination first. Check the cell morphology. If the DNA test is done, it must be moved to another laboratory." Yulin nodded, "No nonsense." After seeing Yulin's agreement, Molly didn't waste any time. She took a drop of Yulin's blood with a dropper and carefully dropped it on the glass slide. After making a temporary mount, she placed it under a high-power microscope for careful observation. "Yo. You're quite skilled at it, aren't you?" Yulin found that Molly made the temporary slides in one go, and was a little surprised. "Didn't you say last time that you were unfamiliar with this aspect?" He Molly smiled proudly, "It's not since you asked me for help last time. I read the book specifically and found that it is not difficult. In fact, I did a lot of this when I was a student. It's just that I didn't have much contact with the biological field, so I wasn't that proficient in it." "Huh. This." As she spoke, Molly projected the microscopic examination under the slide onto the computer screen. After taking a look at it, the smile on her face suddenly solidified. Yulin noticed that Molly's reaction was a little strange. "Did you see anything? You finally stopped being a human being. Wait a moment. What's the matter with your trembling voice?" Molly's delicate little face was flushed, and her ordinary little breasts were rising and falling. Obviously she was a little excited. She quickly worked on the computer, enlarging one of the areas and marking some of them with special symbols. "Look. Human blood is mainly composed of plasma and blood cells. The components of plasma require additional reagents to detect. Under microscopy, we mainly look for any abnormalities in the shape and proportion of the three blood cell lines. Normal blood cells are mainly divided into three lines: white blood cells, red blood cells and platelets. White blood cells are divided into eosinophils, neutrophils, basophils, lymphocytes, monocytes. Well, but that's not the point. Your main problem is here." "Something wrong?" Yulin always felt that there was something wrong with this wording. But Yulin's attention, following Molly's explanation, fell on the blood, the part that did not belong to normal blood cells. "I saw a lot of transparent prism-like components mixed in between the normal blood cells. The long prisms were harmoniously distributed among various blood cells, and it seemed that they had no impact on other normal blood cells." "Is this," Yulin frowned, "stone?" "I'll kill you," Molly almost burst out laughing when she heard this. "If this kind of structure appeared in the blood of normal humans, it wouldn't be called stones, it would be called thrombus." Yilin was speechless for a moment. Really? The result was as Yilin expected. His blood was finally abnormal enough to be detected by human detection methods. Not long ago, Yilin noticed the changes on his apostle panel, and immediately didn't even bother to count the harvest of other props. He rushed to Molly again and asked for help. On Yilin's apostle panel, there is an additional column called Bloodline. Yilin had indeed heard in the past that some people had great opportunities in trials and turned into inhuman species. Even if she could figure out what species it was, Yilin might be able to accept it after struggling for 2 days. As long as you can become awesome, there's nothing wrong with not being a human anymore. But the problem is that his bloodline is unknown hybrid. Unheard of. The mixed ingredients are also labeled at the back. Yilin figured out that the deeper meaning of this was probably, part of him was no longer human? But he hasn't completely become a non-human being? In addition to having an extra bloodline, Yilin also discovered 2 other changes. One in the original enhancement, the Dionysus factor, remnant, obtained so hard in Gotham City disappeared. 2. His most used weapon, Blood Jasmine, disappeared without a trace after it was refined into a drop of blood by Auranos and inexplicably swallowed by Yilin. Not only that, Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoai, who were once possessed by Blood Jasmine, also changed back into spirit cards, red and white, and appeared in his storage space. Yilin speculated that Auranos must have done something to cause his body to undergo earth-shaking changes. Before coming to find Molly, Yilin deliberately found a fruit knife and cut her hand. The self-healing ability is still there, but the speed of wound healing is slightly slower than when he first obtained the Dionysian factor, disabled. Because Yilin didn't attack too hard at that time, he only lost less than 1% of his health. In layman's terms, it was just a trace of blood. Therefore, he did not estimate the specific recovery speed. So, what's the conclusion? After a moment of silence, Yilin asked. Conclusion: when Yilin was struggling, Molly brewed a cup of salted coffee for herself. After taking a few sips, seeing that Yilin finally came to her senses, she smiled. The conclusion is, there is no conclusion. Although I am not an expert in this field, it is obvious that this kind of blood component is not available to humans at present. If normal people had this kind of prism structure in their blood, they would have died long ago. In general, now you have finally succeeded in not being a human being, sucking. Alas. This brand of coffee is good. Molly held the coffee cup in one hand and patted Yilin's shoulder carelessly with the other hand, with a bit of teasing. Are you sad? Come on, there's nothing wrong with being a human being. It's just right. I also found a new research topic. No, it's not sad at all. It's just your reaction that makes me feel like I'm about to become a research subject. Hey, you don't think that I can treat you as a normal person after you showed all kinds of inhuman abilities in front of me, right? Don't worry, I won't dislike you. Molly comforted. Molly finished. Lower your head. Yilin didn't notice the flash of worry on Molly's face at that moment. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Xueshi. Chapter 431. After finishing, Molly yawned. Although the DNA test has not yet been done, the conclusion is basically this: you are no longer a human being. As for the further testing of the prism structure in the blood, I will give you an answer later. Are you in a hurry? Not urgent. That's okay. Molly quickly cleared the microscopic examination data on the computer, and refrigerated and kept Yilin's remaining blood, and said hastily, then I'll go out and see my grandpa first. Huh? Rendi? What happened to Rendi? Only then did Yilin notice that Molly had changed into a set of clothes for going out. Apparently just as he was about to go out, Yilin intercepted him first. Molly waved her hand. It shouldn't be a big deal, I just heard that Grandpa has been feeling a little unwell these past few days. Uncomfortable? It's impossible, right? Then the old man who is always strong and healthy still feels uncomfortable? What's impossible? Wait a minute, what's your expression? Do you think everyone is as imbecile as you? My grandpa is a serious and pure human being, okay. Is it surprising to feel uncomfortable occasionally? Is it weird? You've never seen your grandpa become so awesome. Yilin muttered softly. What did you say? Molly didn't hear clearly and asked with her ears pricked up. Nothing. Yilin waved his hand. Since Molly didn't hear it, he pretended that he never said it. I guess it was when I was sparring with the old man from the Zhu family some time ago that I lost my temper. I had told him a long time ago that at such an old age, why would you really fight with a group of old men when you have nothing to do? Go to the park properly. Isn't it healthy to do senior aerobics or find a partner to dance in the square? Of course, it was hard for Yilin to imagine that Morendi would be uncomfortable. After all, Morendi has always given people an impression of being too awesome. That was the legendary old man who could climb Mount Everest without equipment and have a picnic. Although after Yilin came out of the trial alive, there were many things she wanted to discuss with Molly. It can be seen that Molly looks so worried, so she can only put it aside for the time being. Regarding the bloodline issue, Yilin breathed a sigh of relief after Molly came to the conclusion that she was not a human being. As long as it seems stable at the moment, it's not a big problem. The self-healing ability is still there. It should be that under the influence of Auranos, some changes occurred in the body. It seems that Yilin has one more thing to do before entering the next trial. After leaving the trial, Ningyu and Xiao Chuer sent greetings in the communication function respectively, seemingly not surprised that Yilin could leave the trial alive. Ningyu secretly tested whether Yilin had achieved the he ending by herself. Yilin naturally denied it strongly and regretfully informed them of the details and her thoughts at the time. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer seemed to believe it. After chatting for a few words with the two new friends, they ended the call respectively. The little tale left behind by the world of Auranos finally comes to a perfect end. After Molly left, Yilin looked at the props in the storage space. Drawings of the Dark Temple. Mechalopai. There's also a warehouse full of crystals. Death Revolver. These are all the props harvested in the trial. Among them, because it is a random reward with a D-level evaluation, the effect of Mikarapai, forget it. He had eaten a lot in Labutown and had nothing to say. Dark Temple Drawings. Yilin looked at the design drawing, and suddenly the corner of the temple shown in the depths of the black mist on the back of the giant wind beast suddenly appeared in her mind, and she was thoughtful. This should be a reward deliberately given by Uranus. This is also the reward of the additional mission. In other words, this is most likely the most valuable reward in that world. After all, after accepting the additional mission, the difficulty of the mission has been directly increased to the Evernight level. At present, there are already 2 drawings and props in Yilin's bag. One is a prop that Yilin bought during the Void Merchant's discount, Time and Spirit Cabin Blueprint. The other one is the one in my hand, Dark Temple Blueprint. The world is a ship. Yilin pondered over and over the information revealed by Auranos. This concept is too macroscopic and difficult to imagine. The more he thought about this, the more confused Yilin's thoughts became. In desperation, Yilin could only take out a blank piece of paper, randomly draw a clue diagram on the paper, and use scientific methods to organize her thoughts. In 2111, 4 towers descended. Yilin drew 4 circles. In 2125, I am dead. A timeline appears on the paper. In 2121, I came back. But my parents were gone and I became an orphan. Everything has changed. Yilin silently wrote the word parents and then drew a big times on it. First of all, Ling Yi. Yilin wrote Ling Yi's name and marked 01 next to it. And his own mark is naturally 10. The Ling Yi I know exists in another future. The me that Ling Yi knows exists in a past that I am not familiar with. The exchange of our memories was in the year of my rebirth. In other words, the timing of my return is a key one. What is the time? The world, what is it? Boat. The world is a ship? Messy clues intertwined. Yilin couldn't come up with an answer. Then think about it differently. On July 8, 2121, Henry Zhang was gone, freed, and heroic. Well, thank you, Henry Zhang. Yilin marked a date on the paper and silently gave a like to her long-lost good friend. If it's a butterfly effect, it doesn't make sense. Henry Zhang's death alone can't possibly kill my parents as well. It's impossible to deduce this process. Yilin closed her eyes and thought for a moment. Then write 4 words on the paper. Modify cognition. After these 4 words, there was a small question mark. Next is Ghost Mountain, resentment. Gui Wuxian raised another question mark. Gotham City. Mission revised, 2 jokers. Yilin wrote the name Zuyuner in the circle in Gotham City, and then put a red X on it. Hating City, Zhao Yulong, the undead. And the goddess tower that was finally restored. Caribbean, people who have lost their apostolic qualifications. Stakes Junior High School, that hand. Greentown, green. Itai City, Chimera. By the way, there's more. Yilin suddenly remembered something. On the timeline in front of Giwu Mountain, he wrote the names Gospel Club and White Shadow Club. With a pause of the pen, Yilin wrote Shugwang Sect in the circle of Itai City. At the end of the clue map, Yilin wrote Uranus heavily. In Aurano's circle, Yilin labeled the destroyed world. Just 10 minutes later, Yilin recalled his experiences after his rebirth and wrote down on paper all the things he couldn't figure out, and an intricate clue map was formed. The world, what is it? Looking at the complicated clue map, Yilin felt that everything had returned to its original starting point. Suddenly, Yilin's eyes narrowed slightly, and he muttered. Assuming that the world of Auranos and the world I am in now are actually in an equal relationship. So the tower is equivalent to a passage to other worlds. Ship, river, world, drawing. A terrible guess gradually took shape in Yilin's mind. Yilin wrote another word in the center of the entire clue map. God. Just like every apostle, the prompt given by the first contact with the tower is, do you believe in God? Do you believe it? Suppose that the apostles, following this strengthening method, can go far, far, far away. The attributes reach 10, 100, or even 1000. What kind of state can it finally reach? Become God. Is this the end that Auranos meant? No. Yilin shook her head again and quickly overturned the previous conclusion. If Auranos is a god, this is obviously not the end, because her world was also destroyed by a higher level existence. What is there outside the world? According to the scientific worldview, beyond the world is the universe, and beyond the universe is the vaster universe, which is endless and magnificent. However, since the emergence of the Forbidden Air Zone, the pace of human exploration of the universe has come to an abrupt halt. Xiao Wu said that outside the world is the river. Yilin slowly closed her eyes. When he was in Anajiri Mountain, because Yilin's strength was still very low, he was unable to get in touch with the deeper existence. The same goes for Gotham City and the Caribbean world. But in Styx Junior High School, the pale palm stretched out from behind the mirror. Green in Greentown. Auranos in the game world. These are obviously existences that far exceed the category of human beings. Assuming that there is a transcendent existence in every world, then the reality Yilin is in now should also exist. I don't know how much time passed. Thinking deeply, Yilin unconsciously picked at the dead skin on her forehead. This has become Yilin's little habit. Xiao 11 can turn the book to the beginning or to the middle. Sometimes, Xiao 11 likes to turn the book directly to the end. The protagonist of this book, whether it is the past, present, or future, Zioxi can clearly see it anytime and anywhere. But sometimes, some books are not well written, and Zioxi is so angry that she tears them up, but mom gives her a good scolding. These 3 sentences suddenly flashed through Yilin's mind. Yilin's eyes suddenly shrank. After a moment of astonishment, Yilin looked solemn and meticulously wrote a name next to God. Zioxi. A few days later. Yiren is alone. Returned to Qingcheng. Obviously last time he thought he would never come back. The last time she came, Yilin was still feeling heavy because of the distortion of reality, so she came to consult Su Xiong about what he said about his parents. This time, Yilin felt much more relaxed. Huh? Do you think you are the director? Under the guidance of other police officers, Yilin first walked into an office, then quickly exited. After repeatedly confirming that it was the chief's office, she entered again. Su Xiong came belatedly with a tired look on his face, and then Yilin said with a teasing smile. Hey, you don't understand, being the director is so tiring. If you can choose, it doesn't matter if you are the director. Then, do you want my help? Ah, this. No, 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 I'd better take care of it. Su Xiong forcefully unscrewed the thermos cup on the table, and the smell of wolfberry and red dates wafted out of the steam. Congratulations, you've been promoted. Hey, it's all about the people, for the people. Su Xiong took a big gulp of wolfberry and red date water, straightened his hat, and chuckled. After taking the position of director, he also understood a lot of things that he was not qualified to know in the past. After knowing the meaning behind Yiren, Su Xiong had no airs in front of Yiren, but was somewhat humble. Yilin and Su Xiong had not seen each other for only 2 months in the real world, and there were not many topics to reminisce about, so after exchanging a few words, Yilin smiled and said what she meant. You still remember the time when mental patients came here to cause trouble during the lockdown, right? Yeah, remember. I want to see the surveillance video from the mall that day. Is it still there? Su Xiong readily agreed to Yilin's request. No problem. Pause. Yilin, who was watching a short video with Su Xiong, suddenly shrank her pupils, causing Su Xiong to press pause. Several short videos from different angles faithfully reproduce the scene that happened in the mall at that time. Go back a few frames. Back off again. Right here. In the video, the scene of Xiao 11 crying and looking for her mother was fixed. But what's going on? Are the files damaged? Su Xiong's eyes widened and he looked at the blurry face on the video in confusion. It shouldn't be. Although the resolution of the cameras used in shopping malls is not too high, it is not blurry enough to look like a thin code. This is a serious video. Serious video, what code should I use? Not only Xiao 11's face, but also her mother's face, which hurriedly came to the little girl's side later, was also strangely marked with a thin layer of code. After coding, apart from being vaguely female, it is impossible to identify who is who through facial recognition. Yilin took a deep breath. That's weird. Just wait a moment. I'll ask the information department to see if there's any way to restore it. Su Xiong was also quite attentive to Yilin's request and quickly stood up to shake her off. No need. Yilin shook her head and smiled. What? I've found what I'm looking for. Su Xiong looked confused. Wasn't this not found at all? Could it be that there is a little secret hidden in this video that ordinary people cannot see? He is truly that kind of person. Su Xiong felt deeply in his heart. Since something happened to the previous director, he naturally became the new director as expected by the public, and he also learned more secrets. This world is not as simple as it seems. Many cases that ordinary police cannot solve will eventually be handed over to special groups like Yilin. Special Abnormal Incident Handling Team. Of course, there are no secrets hidden in the video. Even the clues Yilin wanted to find were erased in this weird way. No. Yilin's smile deepened and she thought to herself. To be precise, it should be deliberately reminding me that she is the existence I guessed. If Xiao 11's true identity is really as Yilin guessed, he is the god hidden in the darkness of this world, or other similar high-dimensional existence, or is of a level so high that Yilin cannot imagine. It is impossible for an apostle to leave such a video that is obviously coded and traceable. Her ability should be enough to modify reality. Whether it is human beings' perception of her or their memory, she can modify it to some extent. If you can do that, why leave such a coded video? Wouldn't it be simple and quick to just erase everyone's memory of this incident, or let this video disappear completely? Don't say anything else. Just to make this video disappear from the world, even Oleli can do it, but Xiao 11 cannot do it? Finally, we found the rightful owner. After getting the answer, Yilin felt a deep sense of powerlessness while being happy. A feeling of powerlessness in the face of a terrifying existence that cannot even confirm who I am. Perhaps at this time, ordinary and ignorant humans like Su Xiong can be truly happy. As an old saying goes, ignorance is the greatest happiness. After coming out of the station, it was almost time for Su Xiong to get off work, and he warmly invited Yilin to have a casual meal at his house. Yilin's enthusiasm for Su Xiong felt a little dumbfounded. Isn't it necessary? Hey, Su Xiong's face showed a smile like a veteran driver. You don't think I am trying to fawn over you, do you? Well. Not to mention, Yilin's first reaction at that time was indeed, why is Su Xiong so vulgar? Wrong. Su Xiong shook his finger and said with a smile, I was just thinking, what if in the future, what if, although it is a bit unlucky to say this, I still have to say it. What if I am in office? I can come to you for help if I encounter something that cannot be solved. So that was the plan. Yilin smiled. Actually, if you don't eat this meal, if something happens to you, I will still help you because you have helped me. Don't. Su Xiong was a little anxious. If you don't eat this meal, wouldn't you be embarrassed? It's just a meal anyway, so it won't waste much time. It just so happens that my daughter rarely goes home. But I cooked a lot of specialty dishes. However, Yilin Ao thought about it and realized that there was nothing special happening just after the trial, so he followed Su Xiong to his home. The place where he lives is an ordinary community. With Su Xiong's salary, it is reasonable to live in such a place. Hey. This is Xiaoren. She looks very simple. A woman with a good figure but many traces of time on her face wore an apron and opened the door to greet her with a smile. Yilin, hello, auntie. This is a meeting gift. Yilin casually bought a carton of milk on the roadside and placed it on the shoe cabinet next to the door. Lao Su said that a distinguished guest came to our house. It's rare for him to come to our house. Why are you so polite? Ms. Su complained, but her face showed a happy expression. It's just a box of milk. It's not a bribe. It's not a bribe. Just accept it, my wife. Su Xiong smiled mockingly, obviously rejecting many other gifts. My wife, isn't she beautiful? The two of them were sitting on the sofa. Su Xiong quietly pointed at his wife's back and showed off. Back then, my wife was a famous flower in the police force. She has a gentle and virtuous personality, and she also I don't know what kind of bad luck it was that Lao Su got to marry me back then. Hey. While showing off, Lao Su quietly hammered his waist. This is the last stubbornness of a middle-aged man. Su Xiong couldn't stop talking about his glorious deeds and kept showing off the cases he solved when he was young in front of Yilin. While Su Xiong's wife was busy in the kitchen, she would complain from time to time and reveal the embarrassing things about her old Su, and she was enjoying herself. Yilin sat in the living room for just half an hour, being treated by Su Xiong and his wife with cold dog food on their faces, feeling very helpless. But this atmosphere made Yilin feel very relaxed. A faint warmth arose spontaneously. I don't know since when, this kind of daily necessities, this kind of chattering, has become like a thing from another world to Yilin. When Yilin understood this strange emotion, she couldn't help but laugh. Yes. This is life. I don't know since when, even this ordinary life has become an unattainable luxury for him. As an apostle, your life is precarious, and you don't even know if you can survive the next trial. For every apostle, this kind of ordinary stability is actually the most expensive luxury. Of course, not every apostle would feel this way in this kind of atmosphere. At least, Yilin does. A table of colorful dishes dazzled Yilin. To be honest, this is a chore that Molly would never be able to do in the laboratory. When it was time for dinner, a girl in pink housecoat jumped out of the room. The girl has a cute appearance, delicate facial features, and thick, moist lips. She is very similar to Su Xiong's wife. It can be seen from the girl's appearance that Su Xiong was not just bragging when he said that his wife was a flower in the police force when she was young. Su Xiong hugged Yilin's shoulders and laughed, "My daughter, Su Jingjing, looks like me, she is beautiful." When Yilin heard this, the corner of her mouth twitched. "Aren't you tired of telling lies with your eyes open? Come on, come on. Jing come here and give your uncle, no, brother Lin, say hello." Yilin spit out the tea in her mouth as soon as she heard the word uncle. Su Jingjing looked at Yilin in surprise. Then when he heard Lao Su's words, he rolled his eyes subconsciously and sneered, "Brother. We can't decide who is older and who is younger." After saying that, Su Jingjing stared at Yilin, "When are you from?" Yilin thought of her life experience in this timeline, with a bit of uncertainty in her tone, 2103. "Oh, you're a post-00s generation." Su Jingjing looked at Su Xiong as if demonstrating, "Dad, did you see that? Let him call me sister." "Nonsense. People are older than you in terms of seniority." Su Xiong stared. "It doesn't matter, it's all the same." It seems that Su Xiong's daughter seems to be a little rebellious. Yilin didn't care and smoothed things over with a smile. Su Xiong knew that Yilin's identity was very confidential, and it was impossible to reveal the so-called seniority. He smacked his lips helplessly and sighed, "This period of rebellion is really long." "Jing don't be ridiculous." Seeing this, Su Xiong's wife brought vegetables to the table and pretended to be angry and scolded, "Xiaolin is your father's distinguished guest. I always teach you to be polite. TCH, we are still distinguished guests." A trace of disdain flashed in Su Jingjing's eyes, but he remained silent and sat down in his seat to eat. It seems that in this family, it is the woman who calls the shots. Yilin looked at her eyes, nose, mouth, and heart without saying a word, but secretly mourned for Lao Su for a few seconds. In the end, the rebellious girl didn't make any noise. For Lao Su's sake. Come on. Let's go. I'm not bragging. In the bureau, I'm famous for being a big drinker. Anyone who can drink me down, all of them have been transferred. Old Su, isn't this the daughter's red that we agreed to bloom when Jing gets married? Mrs. Su exclaimed in a low voice when she saw that old Su took out the fine wine that he had collected for a long time. "It's okay, this wild boy doesn't even have a single character, he's going to get married early. Drink less, you are old, really. You are not a child." Su Jingjing. Drinking and drinking each other. Lao Su was promoted, but he didn't seem to celebrate properly. He talked a lot under the influence of alcohol. Yilin was also drunk. He had never drank so much wine since he became an apostle. Lao Su was completely paralyzed and vomited all over the floor. Yilin couldn't help it, Mrsu was so enthusiastic that she could only make do with spending the night in the guest room of Su Xiong's house. After finishing Lao Su's troubles, it was already late at night. After Yilin took a shower, when she passed Lao Su's room, she heard his wife complaining through the door. After smiling, Yilin quickly climbed into bed and fell asleep. In fact, the reason why Yilin was able to drink down a huge amount of Su Xiong was not because he had a good capacity for drinking. It's because Yilin's strength attributes far exceed those of ordinary people. Even if he is not strengthened on the strength side, his physique is not comparable to that of ordinary people. How can Lao Su, an ordinary director, compare with Yilin? A night of silence. Speechless. Huh. Midnight. Yilin's locked door opened a crack without any sound. A petite shadow came in, like a ghost. The visitor's lips were plump and attractive, glowing faintly in the darkness. A bright dagger reflected a cold light and slowly approached Yilin's neck.